sign up for a vaccine. Then they say, like, put in, like, geographically where you're located. The closest spot, they say, go to Cloud.
Really?
It's 79 miles away. You get a shot. No way.
Well, I guess something is that because you put your dates in? Did you put dates in?
No, they said, no, the first one date I had to put in was my birthday, because I'm from that other person. Then they said availability to sign up. Then they said, like, the closest place was, Gloucester.
Card is there.
I said, I'll see
So
you.
then it goes right here, gets everybody here.
Okay.
Goes in and it's gonna be pinned while the public discussion is going on. We tested it yesterday.
Thank you.
That way, people on Zoom will also be able to see this, because that's pinning, that's here.
I don't know what that means, but I trust you.
Yep.
It's only maybe 3 minutes.
What about Newark? They have what the little sites are.
They do, but it's, the question is the supply. Once you get more
You know, that looks like
vaccine out, then it'll,
an Irish tartan. Richard, you're Irish.
We have to,
This is Macy's, excuse me.
Macy's tweet.
I'm very particular about my jacket.
when I walk around the block and do my exercise, I find out everyone that's over 65. I want to be 60. Medications are
We're still waiting for Sun Jesus on here.
Did we adopt?
Hello.
Right, that's what I thought.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that, mine's right behind me. Yep, mine's in the car.
I'm just saying, you ready to, you bought me a message.
So, Pearl, March 2nd.
I got you.
I think that was right call.
Yeah.
Nothing good's gonna happen.
That came into my mailbox by mistake, that letter.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, let me turn this off.
Give me 1 minute. It's the 23rd.
Jesse, test.
We hear you.
Thank you.
So what's the next 2 weeks forecast for weather? No more snow? Just-
Not allowed.
Just, they just melting flood, a little flooding, that's it. The melting.
No more snow.
Thank God.
Time to crawl out.
My daughter was in kindergarten in February. Yeah, they used to have blizzards within like 2 weeks. They couldn't put the snow anywhere.
Ah. Are we good to go, Jesse? Okay. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and electronically forwarding to the official designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall and remotely at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021. Meeting details and the draft agenda were also posted on our township website. Please all stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Christina, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins?
Here.
Ms. Stahl-Eglo?
Here.
Mr. Wasserman?
Here,
Mr. Vinayak?
Here.
Mayor Prupus?
Here.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? May I have a motion to approve the December 15th, 2020 Township Committee minutes?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
What's that?
You can't second it, you weren't part of the council yet.
Right. He's,
All right, we'll redo that. May I have a motion to approve December 15th, 2020 Township Committee minutes?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining?
Abstain.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the December 15th, 2020 Special Township Committee minutes?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? May I have a motion to approve the December 17th, 2020 Special Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? We are going to do reports. Good evening, Millburn Township. I want to start our meeting tonight by stating that it is a great honor to be your mayor. We are all blessed to live in this privileged community. I want to thank our incredible DPW, fire department, police officers, town hall employees, and residents for working together this winter to handle all of the snow. I want to let everybody know that the schools are providing COVID testing for the parents, the families, the students, and the staff on Tuesdays. This started on Tuesday, February 23rd, and you can find more information on the school website. The fourth annual March 4th 5K will take place on Sunday, March 7th, 2021 on Brookside Drive in Millburn. The event will take place virtually and in person, assuming that everyone can comply with the COVID restrictions. And you can find out more information about March 4th at march4th.org. We have some vaccination numbers from Millburn. So the number of first vaccinations is 3,354. Second vaccinations are 1,170, totaling 4,524 vaccinations within Millburn. At its last meeting on February 10th, the Environmental Commission created an open space subcommittee to discuss the idea of setting up an open space trust fund for Millburn Township. The next Environmental Commission meeting is on March 10th at 7 p.m. On February 12th and 19th, a working group of the Rawways River Mayor's Council met virtually to prepare for our meeting with the Essex County Executive. We will be meeting with Joe DiVincenzo on March 3rd to hopefully receive his approval of the consensus plan so we can start working with the NJDEP and Army Corps of Engineers to begin the engineering process for bypassing the Orange Reservoir at the recreational complex. Today, I mailed a letter to Governor Murphy requesting him to direct the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to work proactively and constructively with us to develop a solution to the challenge of regional flood control. Over the past 2 weeks, the Downtown Vision Steering Committee has been holding virtual mini sessions to hear comments from the community in regards to the Downtown Vision Plan. The second public survey launched online on Thursday, February 16th, and will run through March 8th. When you visit the Downtown Millburn interactive map, you can preview and comment on draft ideas. You will be able to explore the markers on the map to learn more about the draft recommendations. There are different concepts shown in each sidebar tab. You can comment on existing recommendations and give them an up or down vote. You can drag and drop the comment pin from the top of the screen onto the map. Please be constructive and courteous in creating a dialogue about downtown Millburn's needs. Comments submitted through this platform are public and visible to other members of the community. Personal details will not be posted or shared. Alex or Jesse, can you bring up the map for us?
Jesse will get it on the website there.
And Jesse, can you just walk us through a little bit of the virtual map? Thank you. So just as we're waiting for this to get pulled up, due to an oversight and the Purim holiday, the second public workshop, which was scheduled for Thursday, February 25th, from 7 to 9 p.m., will now take place on Tuesday, March 2nd, from 7 to 9 p.m. The meeting will take place over Zoom. It will be a virtual conference, and draft concepts will be presented. All interested residents, property owners, and other stakeholders are encouraged to attend and share their thoughts on the visions, goals, and objectives for Millburn's downtown. Our next steering committee meeting with Perkins Eastman is scheduled for March 11th, where we will debrief from the engagement tools and confirm recommendations. We expect that Perkins Eastman team will complete the report by the end of March and present their plan to the Township Committee on March 23rd or April 6th. All right, Jesse, you ready? Just kind of walk us through the virtual map.
So I can
Oh,
speak
Alex,
to, yeah,
please.
so Jesse, if you just walk through it, so the virtual map here shows obviously the downtown area, which is being studied. On the left-hand side, you'll see the icons that is sort of getting into the various areas of recommendation or study or, vision for the downtown area. And if you pick the first one, which is land use and development, this will go through some of the recommendations that are sort of being advanced at this point to be discussed at the public discussion on March 2nd, but talks about really those areas of zoning that should be addressed, whether that's additional uses, things like that. And some of that is on, actually kind of coincides with some of the items on the agenda tonight as well. Being discussed, but also traffic circulation and parking on the left-hand side. All of these areas on the left-hand side are those broad-based areas of interest or recommendation or study or look into for the vision plan. As you can see here, you could pick and click on exactly those info tabs, which will give you some of the thoughts and ideas. And as the mayor had said, you can like, dislike, make comments, and constructively engage in this process. The third tab is the streetscape and parks and bikes. This kind of gets into, in the first session, they had discussed the possibility of a river walk or a greenway between Taylor Park and South Mountain Reservation. Kind of speaks to that a little bit more. Gives some renderings as well as additional information. Again, anywhere you see that I tab is where a participant can click on and add their comments, their like, their dislike. I think it's a really constructive and interesting way of being able to do this instead of having to, if you just want to say that you're not really all that into the idea, you can give the thumbs down instead of, and I think it helps, kind of keep the conversation in the right direction. The last one there is business support, which again sort of speaks to the regulatory process, how Millburn itself as a township interacts with businesses, and the ease of bringing a business into the township or getting through various land use boards and things like that, and offer some suggestions and ideas to that point. And then, of course, there's an area where you can put in any other comments that you might have. It's not limited to just those areas, again, which I think is why this tool is such a really interesting avenue of approach in this virtual, in the necessity to be virtual in this time. It's worked out very well. So you can put other comments. So there might be an area that's not necessarily being addressed or being spoken about. Certainly feel free to put in your comment and drag it into that particular area. I think the engagement has been very productive to this point, and these tools that are being offered by PE and their team have continued to allow that process to be very interactive, despite not being able to necessarily meet in person. So this is just the next step for those that we had 700 and close to 800 people fill out the original survey and the information, and so we hope to get that level of participation, especially at this point, with the sort of the drilling down of some of those ideas and recommendations.
Great, thank you, Alex. Okay. So this is a critical time to think about a larger vision for the downtown. The COVID-19 crisis has created unprecedented challenges for our businesses and has changed the way people use the downtown. The Downtown Vision Plan provides the opportunity to shape a roadmap for the future of Millburn, where bouncing back from COVID era means more than going back to the old normal. It means addressing old and new issues, being prepared for the future, and giving the people the downtown they deserve, more functional, more varied, greener, safer, and more attractive. The Art Advisory Committee is thrilled to announce the upcoming Point of Origin Master Artist Series at the Millburn Free Public Library. This program will present 6 months featuring artists with roots in Millburn offering their unique perspective. The series kicks off with Oscar Peterson, How Art Changed My Life, on Wednesday, May 19th, 2021, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. It's virtual. And to learn more about the supremely talented Oscar and his works and register for the event, visit the library website. And then lastly, on March 8th, Deputy Mayor Wasserman, former Mayor Lieberberg, Managing Director of the Paper Mill Playhouse, Michael Stotts, resident Lori Reisman, and myself will be meeting to discuss cultural programming at the Bauer Center. Okay, I would like to open up reports, starting with Committeewoman Eglow. Do you have any reports for us this evening?
Yeah, I met with Shade Tree. They've worked very hard with DPW for snow removal. They're very proactive in their tree trimming and pruning, so we had a lot less issues with falling branches. And if you need to have a tree removed from your property, you need to get in touch with Shade Tree, and they will investigate if that tree, if it's town tree, can be removed, or if it's your own tree. Tom Doty has to grant permission for that. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Committeewoman Miggins?
Yes, we met with the Zoning Code Examination Subcommittee, and it was the first time that we met, and so we're going to tackle the examination of the zoning code. So we have it's our first meeting, so we have our next meeting coming up this Thursday, so stay tuned. Also, the Cora Hartshorn Arboretum, they're doing quite well with the, in fact, they're almost sold out for their summer program. So that's very exciting. There's only a few spots left for the 4 to 5-year-old tots and a couple spots left for the 8 to 9-year-olds. So they're very excited, and they have some fundraisers coming up as well. Somebody used to play with Greg Allman's band, so they're doing a Zoom fundraiser for guitarist Scott Sherrard, his name is. And then now he's with Little Feat. For those of us who are older, we might not know those bands. That's on March 26th at 7:30. He's Grammy nominated, and so it's $50 a head, and so they're very excited about that. And then lastly, we had library had a meeting, and they have a few things coming up. On March 1st, they have Beyond the Ghetto Gates by Michelle Cameron. It's a virtual meeting, their Fireside Book Club. They're having one in April as well. Hamnet, A Novel of the Plague by Maggie O'Farrell, and it's again a virtual meeting. And then this Friday for adults, they're doing a Zoom presentation, Carla Ulbrich, live in concert, and it's all about humor. So that's what I have for you.
Sounds good.
Oh, and the library, they were very the director of the library wanted to give kudos out to the DPW for what a great job they did with snow removal, and they filled some potholes for him, so he was very excited about that. So kudos to the DPW.
Excellent, thank you. Deputy Mayor Wasserman?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me take off my mask for a second.
It says do not remove your mask up here, right at the podium here, so why?
Well, they're also, just to be clear, we did put that sign up, I'm sorry, to the committee, because individuals that are sharing this microphone have been removing their mask at the meeting, not protected by the plexiglass. I'm not saying one way or the other what Mr. Wasserman wants to do, but that's why that sign is there.
Okay, let me give it a go. I want to make sure everybody's comfortable.
Thank you.
I've been working closely with Explore Millburn Short Hills, our bid, and it's been a very busy couple of weeks. Our new director, Ryan Gleason, and our marketing consultant, Marla Itzkin, are now working every day to support our small businesses in the township. This morning, the Business Advocacy Subcommittee met and is working on several projects. First, they are drafting a comprehensive survey for all businesses and commercial property owners in the 5 business districts. This survey will provide ample information so we can focus our efforts on supporting all of the businesses. Second, they are developing a welcome packet to assist prospective businesses who are eager to enter our township. This packet will both be on the website, on the new website that they're developing right now, and in print as a handout in Town Hall. Lastly, the committee is looking at a comprehensive list of vacancies so it can target those spaces with commercial realtors and get the word out to try to eliminate those vacancies. I've been working also very closely with my next door neighbor here, Committeeman Vinayak, on the Finance Committee. Together with Administrator Alex McDonald and our CFO, Jason Gaboff, we've been meeting almost weekly reviewing all the finances of the township. We've had a dual goal to ensure that we are getting the most for all of our tax dollars and ensure that we're also maintaining, if not improving, our services to our residents. I'm also thrilled that we'll be recommending holding the line on our local taxes this year. The last time our local taxes didn't go up was in 2018. And I do want to commend our administrator and CFO on doing a great job with our finances. I've been very impressed. Our township is in a very strong financial position that I think we all can be very proud of. And those are my 2 reports.
Great. Committeeman Vinayak?
Yeah, I'll do a little presentation on the financials and overall information, goals, strategy, and action items that we are going to take to keep that tax line not moved up. And as Deputy Mayor Wasserman said, it was a team effort. I worked with Deputy Mayor Wasserman, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Gabloff, and then on the KPIs and also on the other ideas with Mayor Purpose. So, and it has been a great experience so far. It's been a month and a half. It's been really great. The information I was looking for and the information I needed was readily provided. I'm going to share as much information as possible that I have, and all the numbers here are not exact, but it is very close to the numbers what it should be. Some pennies here and there, or maybe a few dollars here and there, but this is the first few slides, or most of the slides will be just information based. Then it'll be goals, and then we will show you the strategy and action items. Okay. Not working.
It's not gonna let you in the full view.
Okay, it's working. Okay, so how does anything or taxes overall works? And some of them maybe I may be repeating for some people, some of them it will be new. We go through overall township property valuation and what was the total tax dollar on it, 2020 tax rate and average tax. And we have to go through. So our township valuation is about $9.7 billion. It includes all the properties in the town, and I may say all the properties, it may vary, I don't know, but this is our property valuation, $9.7 billion as of 2020. Our total tax was $187 million on that $9.7 billion. What does that mean? It is 1.925 rate. That is, if you actually divide 187 by 9.7 billion, it will come down to, you have a rate of 1.925%. But it says as 1.925 in all the documents I've seen, so I left it that way. Average tax per household, we pay $24,370. And you may have seen some of the reports coming out in the paper that we are the second top town to pay taxes. And I'll go deeper into that. There's all different ways of looking at the information, and I will share all the information. I'll be very black and white with you. In fact, I won't even put anything in there. It will be as it is. So if you go next. So Millburn Township versus other towns. How are we doing, or what do we do? So average taxes, we have $24,370 per household. What does that mean out of New Jersey state? We have 566 towns. We are second on the list to pay an average of that much taxes. So there's only one town ahead of us. So I guess our property values are good, and we are paying high taxes. In Essex County, how do we stand? There are 22 towns. We are the number one taxpayer as far as the average household tax goes. And this is what you saw in the paper, that we are number 2 in the New Jersey state. Now, what does that mean in a different number? You can bring that up any which way you want it, and just looking at this, we'll say, wow, we are paying so much taxes. Look at this and look at that. Now, let's go to the next one. What is the average tax rate? Our tax rate is 1.925, as I just shown you before. What does that mean in New Jersey state? We are 486th number out of 566 towns. That is how lower on the list we are as far as the percentage of tax goes. How are we doing on Essex County? Out of 22 towns, we are the least percentage-wise on the taxes. So as far as number 2 and number 1 goes, it seems like high. On the percentage, you see Essex County, we are the lowest percentage tax rate payer. In New Jersey state, we are 486 on the list. Now there's another one, municipal tax rate. So when we talk about tax rates, we talk about Board of Ed, we talk about county, we talk about library, which is also a part of municipal. And this is the municipal tax rate. And you have to all understand, anything that goes in county and Board of Ed, and even library for that matter, this body here, we don't get, or we don't participate in that. It is on their own. They come up with whatever regulation they follow. They come up with that tax rate. All we are here, including Mr. McDonald, we are coming up with municipal tax rate. So our municipal tax rate is 0.481%. How does that stand in New Jersey state? We are 409th on the list out of 566 towns that we have in the state. And in Essex County, we are 20th on the 22 towns on the list. So you would see in here, when we talk about highest tax, we are also lower on the other sides. And we have good houses, and the values are good, the percentage-wise, it becomes lower. So let's go to the next one. We collect $187 million of taxes. That's what I showed you up in the first slide, which had $9.7 billion valuation and tax was 1.925. That is broken down with Board of Ed first, county next, library next, and township next. So Board of Ed, out of $187 million, $92 million is Board of Ed coming to us saying we want to collect $92 million. And that is almost 49, it is 49.3%, but I've kind of rounded it up to 49. We, again, don't have a say. This is their board. They come up with this number. All we do in here is collect for them and pay them. Then comes the county. Again, they're county execs and county boards. They're coming up with this, another number is $48 million out of that $187 million, which is 25.6 or 25.7%. It's rounded up again, which is 26% showing up here. Then is the library. It's a statutory, which is $3.3 million, which is about 2% of the overall 187 million. Township is $43 million, which is 23% of the $187 million. This is what we decide as a team here, what should be our tax. On top of this, we also have $13 million. If you press one more time, please. That is the $13 million which township collects from local revenues, state aid that we get. We have surplus from the previous balance. Altogether, that makes it to be approximately $56 million for township, $3 million for library. So you will see some of the places you will see number close to 59 million because that includes library. But I have to keep reminding that library is not us. We are the one who's taking care and making sure that $43 million is raised. Let's go next. So now, $187 million, I wanted to show you collectively, Board of Ed, county, and library makes it about $143 million, $144 million out of $187 million. That is 77% of the taxes dollars that are determined and spent by respective bodies. And then next comes the township, which is, you see there, 23% is what we manage and we deal with. So when you talk about high taxes, let's make sure we all think about the 23% and not 77%. If you have any say or if you have any comments on the 77%, you need to go to that county or you need to go to that Board of Ed. It is out of our jurisdiction. We are as resident as you are. We can go there as a resident as well and talk about it. Now, within that 23%, which is about 43 million, but including that 13 million, which is 56 plus 3 million on the library, how is that tax allocation within the township? These are all the different functions, all the way from police, which is a little over $8 million, all the way to engineering or environmental commission at the end, which is about $1,000 or $1,500. That is how we allocate all our tax money this way. Now, I will give you even more information. Can we go next? Staffing is the biggest cost in our township. And over a period of last 4 or 6 weeks, we have met every week. And with Deputy Mayor Wasserman and Mayor Purpose, we have been coming back over and over again. If you go back a slide, please. Just scroll up. Yeah. So police department. Everybody says we have 58 police officers, and that is correct. But we have 64 employees in police department. 6 could be the supporting people over in there. So we have 64 employee headcount, and this is the base salary of $6.7 million. One previous slide which we saw, the graph, you didn't probably see it clearly, but that was a little over $8 million. That is the operating cost for police, where everything else is also included, the uniform, the holiday pay, whatever that was towards that police department, that was that. This is their base salaries for 64 people. Now let's move on to the next one. The next big department for us is fire department. Some of our adjoining town, like Livingston, they have volunteer fire department. We have a full-time fire department here. We have 48 people in there, 48 employees, 46 firemen and 2 supporting staff, which cost us about $5.3 million on the base salaries. Then next is DPW, Department of Public Works, which we just heard. They've done a tremendous job in library or other places as well. There are 40 people, and they are in sub-department as well. Some are road, some are snow, some are shade tree, some are different animal control. Overall, they make 40 employees, and which is their base salary is about $3.6 million. Next is the remaining 13 more departments. Altogether, there are 42 employees, and we spend $3.4 or $3.5 million on them. Now, that next one is the total of everything. We have 194 employees. We pay a little over $19 million in their base salaries. Now, salaries are not just the only spend on staff. Let's go into the next slide and we'll show you what other spend on just the staffing is. So total staffing cost, we saw salaries is $19 million, a little over 19. Then next is medical insurance. We have lot heard about New Jersey benefits, and this is one part of that benefit, medical insurance. We pay $6.3 million on the medical insurance for our 194 employees. Then next one is the pension plan. $4.4 million on pension plan. Just between salaries and pension plan goes up about 8 to 10% a year. Salaries and pension plan, we don't even have a say. It comes directly from New Jersey State. It all depends on how many people we have, how many employees we have. There's a calculation and that comes in, and that is what we pay for all our 194 employees. And salaries, by union contracts, and now we are negotiating those contracts too, it is on an average, goes up about 2%. It could be a little down, it could be a little up. But that is what has been happening in the past. For 2020, we are still in talks with the unions. So just to show you that 19 million going up 2% is about $400,000. Pension plan going up about 10%, it's about $400,000. So every year, even if you don't do anything, it's about $800,000 going up every year. And let's go to next. Between overtime, Social Security tax, and uniform of the people, of employees, it's about $3 million. So altogether, we are down to $33 million on the staffing cost. How does that reflect on our total budget, which is about 56? Our staffing cost is about 60%. We are better than the Board of Ed, though. I think their salaries and benefit is more close to an 80s. But we are 60% of the total budget. And let's go down one more. This is the number I wanted to give you. Every employee we hire here, based on 194 employees, some could be paid higher, some could be paid lower. It cost us $150,000 per employee. 100 in the base salary, $50,000 in benefits, medical and pension included. So when we talk about additional headcount, let's make sure we have this in our head. Okay? Let's go next. So what is our goal for 2021? All this information before that was all information that you can get from anywhere online. And you just have to dig deeper and you will find that everywhere. Now, this is the goal, what we collectively here, especially Mr. Wasserman and Mayor Purpose and all of the TC member. I don't want to kind of include everybody's name because I don't want to speak for them. But we do not want tax increase in 2021. Mr. McDonald and Mr. Gabloff, our CFO, who's not here, but he has worked every week with us on this. We had that goal and we made it possible. I think these guys have come up with a preliminary budget which will not increase township part of the taxes. If the tax still goes up, it would be more because Board of Ed may have gone up, or county may have gone up, or library may have gone up. But our part will not go up in 2021. How are we going to do that? We are going to build efficiencies within the township and dollar allocation, the allocation chart that you saw on the graphs. And then next is, very important for me, is we meet or beat current service levels. Our town is service oriented. Everything that we do in here is above and beyond. Now, people may complain about that we don't have enough services, but what I've seen is we pick up garbage twice a week. There are towns that don't even pick up the garbage. You pay for it. So we have to appreciate what we have in town, and I don't want to budge on those services. So we want to still meet or beat those service levels. So these are our goals. Now, goals could be up there. We need to have a strategy and we need to have an action item to hit those goals. What is our strategy? There are three folds. One is we have to measure performance for all our department and for us as a township committee. So we have actually identified, or we are in the process of identifying, 5 township KPIs. KPIs is called Key Performance Indicators, which will measure the performance. Every month we are going to share that with the township resident. Whether it's bad or good, it doesn't matter. It will give us some way to figure what to do. If it's going bad, how can we make it better? So those 5 township committee KPIs will be listed very soon here. Not only that, we have actually put in 2 to 3 KPIs or performance measurement for each department. That will be reviewed internally with the department heads and the CEO, and that will be reviewed by us as well if they are completely off the chart. So that's how we are going to make sure we are hitting or beating our service levels. And next one is, every department needs to tighten their belt. Financially, we are providing from January onwards, already started, we are providing every department head their management report that shows how much they've spent on that month. If that is, and we are going to provide them the monthly budget as well, divvied up from that annual budget, so they can see what they are going off on. One important thing we have seen, also noticed, and that could be or may not be controllable, is overtime. We like to control the overtime across each department. And that is the department head's strategy. They need to work on it and make sure we are in control of that. Next is focus on biggest spend to find savings. We cannot go down to a small one and spend a lot of our time on that and spend maybe a $50 or $10. We know our spend is $56 million. How do we go attack on the biggest item and see where we can find the savings? There may not be any savings on the biggest item, but we have to start there and bring our way down. So we have to, first thing that we did, and I think there was a resident who also wrote us an email, and very good input. We already had a broker, and that broker is finding out our loss ratio. We are going to go out and build our health insurance plan. While maintaining the same benefit, can we get a cheaper health insurance plan from other companies? We spend a little over $6.3 million. Even if we save 5%, it's $300,000. So again, we are not saying to change the benefit plan. We're saying the same benefit plan, but from a different company, or from the same company, but cheaper. Then we are negotiating terms this year with the union. All 5 contracts are over, and we are in the process of negotiating those unions. Now, employees here may think I'm crazy or we are crazy, and people outside may feel that I don't have the brains on, I'm fighting against mountain, because unions are like that way. But guess what? Someone needs to start, and I'm going to start. That's on that part. Then consider our options on shared services. We are a small town. We cannot have our department for every damn thing. We really need to look into what those smaller functions are, and go out and see what other towns are doing. Share those services with them. We have done some of the shared services already, like 911 dispatch. Some may feel that that was a waste. Some may think that is a great thing. But anything you do, it will be always treated with negative and positive response. There are health that we share with Livingston. There are other things as well. So I'm just going to quickly go down one more. A lot of work ahead of us. But we are determined. If we have volunteered our time, we are going to make sure what is in the best of our capacity, we are going to go ahead and do it. Thank you. That is my report, Mayor.
Wow, that's great. If I could just make one last thing, just to dovetail with this. I just want you to know that, we see negative reports in the press every now and then that our taxes are higher, whatever. I just want to say that we have the best town in New Jersey. We have world-class schools. So this is what we're getting, for our tax dollars. World-class schools, consistently high home prices, a diverse and wonderful residents, amazing recreational opportunities, low crime, close to New York, 2 train stations, the Paper Mill Playhouse, and I can go on and on and on. So I just want you to know that for our tax dollars, we live in an incredible town, and which I'm very proud of.
Mr. Vinaya, Committeeman Vinaya, thank you for your presentation and for all of the work you are doing for our township.
Thank you, Mayor Purvis.
Mr. Falcon,
Yeah,
do you have a report for us today?
a brief report.
Okay.
As you may remember,
Mr. Falcon, do you have a report, microphone?
yes, I do.
Thank you.
Several months ago, I reported that the local finance board had dismissed the URSO complaint asserting a conflict of interest on the part of then Deputy Mayor Prupus in voting on the SID ordinance. Mr. Feld announced that he had taken up the representation of Mr. and Mrs. Urso, I add, at free of charge, and that he would be filing to seek a reversal of that determination. The local finance board has now denied the motion for reconsideration that was filed, and accordingly, there is no remaining complaint on that issue before the local finance
Excuse me,
board.
please, you're disrupting the meeting.
That's it.
Mr. Falcon, couldn't hear you. Can you please repeat that last part?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And once
The
again,
local
but-
finance board has dismissed the motion for reconsideration filed on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Urso, and accordingly, there is no complaint remaining before the local finance board.
Got it. Thank you very much. Please remember that we are not yelling out from the crowd. If you disrupt the meeting, I will let you know you're disrupting the meeting, and please just refrain from disrupting the meeting. Okay. Mr. McDonald?
Yes, I just have a brief report or sort of conversation with the committee, as at the last meeting, a complaint was brought forward about the double parking issue in front of the Millburn Deli. This has been an ongoing complaint and kind of a battle back and forth, between the double parking and the enforcement of that double parking. So we have been for some time kind of hemming and hawing about the ability to put in reverse angle spaces at this location in front of the deli. And I've provided a sketch for the township committee that would add 7 reverse angle spaces, which would eliminate the ability to double park in this area. Now, the important factor in this is that this would be done initially as a temporary solution to see the efficacy of that change. This would be something new, obviously, and there are still some, conversations that need to be had, whether that be with Essex County, and just make sure that, as we go through this. But I wanted to bring this up to the township committee and bring it up publicly as a result of that, that complaint. And again, that wasn't a new complaint. This has been going on for some time, and we have been going back and forth on this issue and trying to solve that through enforcement of the double parking. But it always sort of comes back around again. So just wanted to put that out there to the committee, see if there was any thoughts, discussion on that, or if you were okay with the township moving forward with that, what would be a temporary change. If it works, if the efficacy is there, and that people are parking safely and that things are happening safely, then we can look to make that a permanent change.
Okay. I'm going to ask my fellow committee members if they have any questions for Mr. McDonald.
I was able to review what Mr. McDonald has suggested, and I thought it was a great idea and great suggestion, a great recommendation. I would be supportive of that.
Does anyone else?
I think it's a good idea. I just think that I want to make sure that our traffic department is on site, when this is instituted. I just from a safety point of view, I just want to be reassured that, that we'll have enough eyes on what's happening when that's done. Because that is a busy, that's a very busy lane, and we do have a lot of commuters, passing that. And so if you could just reassure me that our police will have some extra eyes on that, when that's being instituted.
Yes, I think it would be a sort of all hands on deck as you make sort of a substantial change like that for some time too, just to make sure that people are comfortable and there's a getting used to it period. I recall when we put the always stop in at Highland and Hobart that we had a police presence there for quite a while just to make sure that people were aware of the new change. So that that went very smoothly as a result. But you're absolutely right, Deputy Mayor. It is a busy place. There will be some concern about the intersection and backing into those spaces. It is a new movement, but I think we can assure you that there will be people there.
I'd be supportive of
Does anyone else on the committee have any questions for Mr. McDonald? Okay, so I have a few, in terms of a timeline, what are you thinking?
Well, as I think was being brought up at the beginning of the meeting, we'd like the snow to get out of the way so that we can paint. There may be some grinding of the lane markers just to make sure that there's no confusion. And as you said, just setting up an implementation so that we can do that safely. I would say at this point, we would probably be looking at, I think conservatively speaking, an April 1, right in that ballpark.
Okay, and one of my concern is that we communicate this well to the public
Yes.
and to the businesses.
Yes, and just so, we have had conversations in the past with the owner of the deli about this potential solution, because I don't think there was anybody in that area that didn't want some sort of solution. It was just a matter of how best to go about that. And previously, we were looking at this, and we were looking at front-end parking with 9 spaces, and so we were able to reduced that a bit just to have a little bit less congestion with the intersection, a little bit more sight line with the driveway at lot 12. And so again, this is a trial basis. This is going to be does this work? And so to your point, Mayor, yes, we will make sure it's communicated.
I'd also want to throw in that maybe we could also alert the other businesses, the neighboring businesses, whether it's Bunchers or the other storefronts, just so they don't wake up to this. Any of these stores that are along that corridor,
Yeah.
we should give them a special heads up that this is happening. Not necessarily for their approval, but to let them know what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
So just to be clear, Mr. McDonald, I'm driving down Millburn Avenue, I want to go to the deli, I've gone through the light, and I'm going to go right into the spot?
Nope. You're going to pull up and you're going to go as if you're parallel parking. So if there was a curb there, you would parallel park. So you're going to go as if you're parallel parking and you're going to back into the spot.
Why
It's
are we
actually,
doing it in front? Isn't it much easier to go right in through?
it's much easier to do it that first move. However, it's not much easier to back out into the traffic and be able to see where you're backing out into. So the idea here is this movement is just like parallel parking. Actually, it's one less movement than parallel parking. You go like this, back into the spot, where with parallel parking, you back in and then you pull forward. So this is actually one and as that goes, you back in, you pull forward, you're not quite there, you back in again, and it becomes a whole. So this is actually less movement. And then when you're pulling out into traffic, you see the traffic. So this, while it is different because most of the angled parking you see is head in this area, the head in parking will be problematic because of when you have to back out into the lane of traffic.
Well, this is my opinion, it's been my experience. Maplewood, you go forward. Summit, you go forward, and it's the same type of thing. Maybe they don't have 3 lanes of traffic, they have 2. But, and it's also been my experience that whenever you see somebody's taillights on, people automatically slam on the brakes to be able to get into that spot. So people will wait. Is this almost similar to what you have to do to park on those
No,
ballards?
no, definitely not. This is much different because that is parallel parking. The flex parking spaces are parallel parking. However, they're raised parking. This is just a reverse angle spot. These types of spots are utilized elsewhere. But you're correct. In Maplewood Village, you see front end angle parking. However, the roadway and the area in which it's coming is completely different from a speed of traffic perspective and a volume of traffic perspective.
What was Mr. Maurice from Mazur's interpretation of this plan?
This particular plan, was not given to Mazur Consulting at this point. This was originally we've already kind of been through multiple iterations of this, as you know, Committeewoman Eglo. So this was not brought to him at this point. We have Christine Bugle in the engineering department, who has quite a bit of experience in traffic engineering, and so at this point, that's that's who's drew this up in CAD, who has seen this and who's evaluated this. As I said, there's still a few steps to go through. We can certainly bring this past Mr. Mazer, or Maurice from Mazer, if necessary. But also, I think we also just have to have a quick conversation with the county as well.
Okay, I think there's a lot of mixed feelings about reverse in. Westfield also, you pull straight in on that middle street in Westfield. This was part of the original design by Arterial, I believe. Reverse in parking was part of the original design. So I hope they're watching and seeing that more of their things are becoming to fruition in Millburn. But I would be more comfortable commenting after Marie's comments. I don't really have an expert opinion on this. I'd be more comfortable if Maurice would comment as our long-term traffic engineer.
Okay.
Does anyone else on the committee have any questions for Mr. McDonald? It seems like we have a consensus to have you continue this with trying to get it set for April 1st. I have a few more questions. The spaces. So would they be designated at all for like Uber Eats or or any kind of 15-minute park? Like how, do you know or have a plan for how we're going to designate this?
Do not at this point, but I think that, again, as we see the increase in delivery driving and the Uber Eats or Grubhub and things like that, that is a large volume of the traffic that is stopping and standing throughout the business districts. So if there is a desire, again, as we continue to just investigate the efficacy of this solution, whether that also would like to be investigated, whether having a few spots that are designated to delivery drivers or for 15 minutes, that certainly could be done.
I think also if we ask the businesses in that area what they would like to see there, that should be part of the outreach to the business community.
Sure.
As well.
Sure.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
You're welcome.
Mr. Molman, do you have any reports? Okay. So now we're going to bring on Ms. Duckworth to present to us Bike Week.
Good evening, council members and township committee. I wanted to thank you for doing all your volunteer work on everything. It's really, I believe that town is a wonderful place to live, and echo the comments made. I am here to discuss with you today. My name is Jennifer Duckworth. I am representing the PSAB, the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board. Right now, I'm sitting as the chair of that, and one of the actions that we're tasked with is to promote pedestrian and bike safety in Millburn Township. And so one of the ways we have been meeting, a group of us have been meeting called the Bike Walk Millburn, and Jorge Maspetro and I have been leading that group and trying to find out what actions people would like us to take. And so after meeting for a couple times, a number of people on our team came up with these ideas for how to promote biking and pedestrian safety in Millburn Township in the form of a bike week, a celebration of biking. It does not have many in-person activities. The one Tour de Millburn will be occurring in the fall, and so this is not Tour de Millburn. This is more of an opportunity to learn more about biking. And so I'm just going to run through the activities for that week. The first is on Saturday, April 17th. We are excited to announce that we're going to be having a bike swap and helmet drive, and that will be at Lot 19 across from the police station. And at that, you will be able to swap out old bikes. You can either leave one and take one, or you can just leave your old bikes. So we're hoping that this will encourage people to hold on to your bikes. Don't bring them to the DPW, because you can bring them to Lot 19 on April 17th. Any old helmets, we're looking to donate them to the Boys and Girls Clubs. And the bike swap, we have nonprofits that we've been partnering with as we've been removing the bikes from the DPW yard. We have 50 bikes that we've donated to different nonprofits. One is Family Promise of Essex County. Another one that we're working for is Just One Village that donates bikes to villages in Ghana. And so we've been getting the bikes that people leave at the DPW yard. We've been donating them, but now we don't want to bother the DPW people who are amazing and wonderful to work with. We would rather have you bring your bikes directly to us on April 17th. So save your bikes, come on down 9 to 11 on Saturday, April 17th. We're also partnering with Sensational Therapies, which is a business in Short Hills that is a physical therapy program where they've been working all through COVID to teach kids how to ride bikes. Obviously not in the snow, but they have you can sign up and have your kids learn to ride. Well, they've been so generous and they've agreed to have people sign up, and for free, they will teach your kids to ride a half an hour in half an hour slots. So we hope to get 3 therapists teaching for the 4 hours. That would be 24 different 24 different children would learn to ride their bikes. So we're hoping that people will sign up for that, for kids who are excited to learn to ride. Thank you to Alex and Tara and the county of Essex for agreeing to close Brookside Drive for an extended period of time, both Saturday and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Brookside Drive will be closed, extending the period that you will be able to be vehicle free. You'll be able to ride your bike and walk on Brookside Drive. And so we're also having on Sunday an activity called Paint the Street, where we're working with the schools to identify locations that might be good bike lanes or sidewalks where they don't exist now, to get kids to school. So this is in partnership with Bike and Walk to School. On Monday, we're going to be working with the schools again to encourage people to bike and walk to school. And we're working on trying to get a punch card program. Maybe if you bike or walk to school during that week, you can have your card punched, and then the schools are looking into some kind of a reward for participation. On Tuesday, we're having a virtual event for everybody. It will be after school, so probably around 3:30. We haven't agreed on the time yet, but we're going to have the Zoom call that Trans Options, they're going to teach bike safety and what you should think about before you get on your bike every time you ride. And they'll go through the hand signals and other things you need to know. On Wednesday, we're having, so exciting, a police forum where our police department, who's been so generous of their time working with us for pedestrian and bike safety, they'll be hosting a forum, and we'll be collecting questions before the forum for them to answer and speak about. On Thursday, we're going to have a bike repair education event that's going to talk about more in depth, if you want to replace your tires, what you should be looking for when sizing your bike, and other things you can do to do home bike repair on when you take your bike out for the springtime for your first time, and also for quick repairs, what you might do. Friday, we're partnering with Opportunity Project, a local nonprofit, and they're going to provide us with helmet education for how to put your helmet on properly, and then have somebody who has encountered their Opportunity Project is they work on people with brain injuries, and so they're going to have someone who has encountered brain injuries and how they have deal with that in everyday life. And then on Saturday, we're going to do a resident ride where we all meet up on Crest Drive in the reservation and go on a ride together to see what a road that doesn't have any traffic on it, how that can look like, and an opportunity for people if they haven't ridden on Crest Drive to see that resource. So thank you very much, Mayor Purpose, for inviting me to speak and to provide this information. It will be up on the website, on our PSAB website, and as more time progresses, we'll have more opportunities and more information for you. Thank you.
Ms. Duckworth, this is amazing. Thank you so much for all the work that you do for our township. So appreciated, and very much looking forward to Bike Week. And we have flyers for Bike Week up here for the people in the room, and also for March 4th on the table up here. Okay. So the committee will now consider consent agenda resolutions. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to any items listed on the consent agenda?
No comments, Mayor.
Are there any comments from the public that, on the consent agenda resolution items? And Mr. Feld, can you give me 1 second, please? I just would like to read something. So, public comment period is a time for you to state your comments. It is not a dialogue between the public and the Township Committee. Our contact information is available on the Township website, and you're welcome to contact us directly. When you are ready to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and address. At 2.5 minutes, you will hear the buzzer, and you will have 30 seconds to wrap up your comments. When the second buzzer goes off at the full 3 minutes, your allotted time is over. It is with consensus from this Township Committee that we will strictly adhere to the 3-minute time limit for public comments. No person is permitted to yield his or her time to another speaker. If a member of the public disrupts the meeting by speaking beyond his or her 3-minute allotted time for public comment, I will advise you with a warning that you are disrupting the meeting. If you continue to disrupt the meeting, I will inform you again that you are disrupting the meeting and preventing the business meeting from proceeding. If you continue to disrupt the meeting, I will call a 5-minute recess in which the Township Committee will leave the dais and you will be asked to leave the building. Please remember that we are all neighbors and are here because we love our town. And please refrain from screaming at us. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Feld, would you like to come to the microphone?
Yeah, my name is Jeffrey Feld from 11 Alexander Lane, Short Hills, New Jersey. I am a pre-Midtown Direct citizen. Prior to this meeting, I delivered and emailed you a heads-up questions, what I have about the 3 agenda items that I would like to be part of the record. When you do your minutes, this should be included that you received it, because it's putting you on notice. There are 3 issues I'm talking about. First is the bill list. That's Resolution 21066. I ask you to carve out and put in escrow the payment to the municipal attorney, because there's questions as to whether those monies are for services that were performed last year, which might be in excess of his contract. I have not yet received the contract for this year. The draft that I received that bears the signature of the city attorney, but not the signature of the mayor, says that any disputes go to arbitration. That's a fact that no one, I think, in the community needs to know. To my best of knowledge, none of you are lawyers. In calendar year 2020, there were 2 major state Supreme Court cases that came out about retention agreements. You need to review them. That the rules of professional conduct govern those contracts. When you deal, and especially when the client is a public entity, there are different rules. The rule being that he agreed to a retention cap of $100,000. He exceeded it. Why is he doing that? As to the bond anticipation note, I have some very specific questions as to that. We did find out there was a little confusion because of the prepared date as to what is being rolled over, because there's two pieces, and then was there a new piece that's being financed? As to the rolled over pieces, at what point will we start amortizing the debt down? Because usually on bond anticipation notes, it's like a credit card. You just can't constantly roll over the debt. At some point, you have to start commencing paying it down. And I think the public needs to know what pieces are being done, what projects they were, and when we will start amortizing that debt. The next issue goes to Resolution 21075, which repeats back to last meeting, which is the closed executive session minutes. This meeting, you're approving for 2019 and 2020. The same issues go. When did you originally approve the closed executive session meetings, and why was the delay, to release them? In addition, I understand triage. The resolutions that were approved at the last meeting have not yet been put on the public website. However, things have been done for, let's say, the downtown vision plan. The public needs to look at these closed executive session meetings, especially some of them that deal with the woodlands and the issue about the rooftop decks. You have my issues, but please, I send you these letters. I also told you about an op-ed. Is that my time?
Thank you, Mr. Feld.
I'll see you later this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Feld. Would anybody else like to come speak to consent agenda items only?
Nancy Stone, 10 Fielding Road. I'm speaking tonight as a resident. I am in real opposition to the $92,000 that's being paid out to KIT. This should be disclosed whether it's last year or what, but $700,000 is excessive. Great presentation on the numbers, but we are number one for a reason because we do have the services, but when you're dealing with numbers, there's a lot of different issues that you can play with, to do that three-card Monte that apparently we're so famous for. If you're looking for money, I suggest you look for the $200,000 that Wasserman took for the SID and Jackie took for the SID. That's found money for your savings.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Would anybody else like to make a comment on consent agenda items?
Yes, hi. Jean Pasternak, 342 Hobart Avenue. I'd like to just concur with Mr. Feld's comments regarding the payment to Mr. Falcon. I think the point he's raised is pretty serious. We have these outstanding issues regarding the $100,000 retention cap that was exceeded without resolutions to approve payments above that cap. I think that's major, and I don't understand why we would continue to pay until that's resolved. There's advice that's been received that I think appears to be incorrect, certainly about the SID. There are other things as well. The executive session minutes are really important. I had asked for a list of outstanding litigation, and that couldn't be produced. I think that's pretty critical for the public to be able to follow what's happening with litigation against the township. I also am shocked by this secret arbitration clause. I've never heard of such a thing. I'm floored by that. Why would we need to do that with a municipal attorney? We should be able to know exactly what's going on. Mr. Falcon confirmed to me that there was a federal investigation that was closed in 2017, but it looks as though we were paying those attorneys through till 2020. No specifics were ever shared with the public as to what that matter was about, why Millburn was being investigated, why. With all these issues, why would we make a payment at this time? The escrow account ID, I think, is an excellent one. And I'd just like to add, while we're thanking so many residents for all the good, hard work that they're doing, I'd like to thank Jeff Feld for all the work he's doing to help the Township Committee clean up its operations, getting the agenda published, getting the bill list out there, and all these other things that he's doing to apply pressure and education to the community about accountability and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pasternak. Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment on the consent agenda items? Do we have some people on the phone? Okay.
Hi, Dominique Urso, 514 Melbourne Avenue. I would like to comment on the fact that we get 2 times trash pickup for free. It's not for free. It's in the hidden taxes, okay? That's why we're #1 in the
Ms.
state.
Urso, is this about- because-
This is about the budget and taxes. It's relevant.
It's just,
Thank
wait,
you.
this is,
Let me
we're only
finish.
speaking to consent agenda items. If you have one.
This is consent agenda item.
Okay, to what number? To what resolution can we help you with?
Great. It is consent agenda item number 21-066. Okay?
Okay,
And you're cutting into my time. Thanks.
the bills list,
So-
on what bills?
Where I was.
Okay, you know what, it's okay. You can keep going. It's okay.
Thank you. Thank you. So why don't you add 15 seconds back to my time too? Thank you. So we're #1 in taxes, okay, for New Jersey for a reason. If everyone goes to NJ.com, it was written by Samantha Marcus on February 15th, 2021, okay? Nothing is for free. We have over $25,000. That's an average of taxpayers that we pay, okay? Every time. And you know what? For Mr. Wasserman's open comments as well on all these budgets, to say that the township is in a good position and you're all very proud of that, then you wouldn't have said in the summer that you needed an urgent SID for struggling businesses, okay? You all have a hidden agenda, okay? You might be public servants and donating your time with a deal waiting for you somewhere else. That's why you're not helping us and we're struggling and you don't care
Ms.
about it.
Urso, do you have
Okay.
anything else to say to the consent agenda items?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And Jeff Feld has donated his time for free with no agenda, unlike all of you. And you have shown him
So, Ms.
the
Urso, right
worst
now
type of
are saying a lot of
respect, okay? Yeah, I'm done.
disparaging
I'm
remarks.
done. I'll talk to you at public comments. Thank you, Mayor. Fake Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs. Wow. Thank you, Ms. Urso. All right, lovely. Are there any other items? Anybody else that wants to speak to the consent agenda? Okay. Oh. Would any of our professionals, Mr. McDonald or Mr. Falcon, would you like to respond to any of the comments that we heard?
Yes, I can respond to a few.
Okay.
With regard to Mr. Feld's comment on the bond anticipation note, this bond anticipation note includes dollar amounts for complete streets, South Mountain flood mitigation projects, the Slayton pump station repair that you see on here tonight, as well as a reconstruction for the new HVAC system at the Millburn Police Department. In further response to that, and the question of when are we amortizing the loan, under the bond anticipation note, you are allowed to continue to pay through short-term debt for up to 10 years. So which you sell each year, if at a point you are not able to fulfill that obligation within that 10 years, then yes, you would have to go out for long-term debt in a 20-year or 30-year bond. I don't have any further comments on the questions from the consent agenda.
Okay. Do any of the committee members have any remarks, comments, anything you'd like to say to any of the public comment for the consent agenda item?
Yes, I have, Mayor.
Yes,
That is
please.
my understanding as well. There's bond notes and then there's bonds. Bond notes are for 7 to 10 years. Every year you sell it again and you redo the notes. If it goes beyond 10 years, you have to go out and borrow for bonds. And that's what Mr. McDonald has just mentioned, and that's what my understanding is as well.
Got it.
Thank you.
So does anybody, Mr. Falcon, would you like to respond to anything that was said during the public comment on the consent agenda items?
No,
And
not
please,
at this time.
okay,
Not
fabulous.
at this time, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 12-066 through Resolution 21, redo. Resolution 21-066 through Resolution 21-076, which are listed on the consent agenda.
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins?
Yes.
Ms. Egla?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
Yes.
Mayor Prupus?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm going to refer to Mr. McDonald for review of Resolutions 21-077, 21-078, and 21-079.
Thank you, Mayor. So these are all very closely related resolutions, all dealing with how the township is going to proceed forward into the warmer months as we continue to try to address the needs of businesses in this current environment. The first resolution, 21-077, is an authorization to waive the Sidewall Cafe license application fee. We did do this resolution last year, in which restaurants normally will pay a fee to the township for the use of sidewalk space and additional seating. We are looking to waive that requirement. However, it would still require restaurants to have the proper insurance, fill out the proper application, and make sure that's filed with the township. This resolution also contains the ability to have that process expedited by having the proper departments sign off on it and then authorized by myself, rather than having to wait for a township committee meeting to pass that resolution. It will be confirmed at a township committee meeting after, just so that the public is aware as well as the committee. But we want to make sure that when people are ready to get outside and start dining outside, that they have that ability. That is that first resolution. The second resolution, 21-078, again, is a similar resolution to what was done last year, in which we allowed for restaurants and other businesses, if so desired, to operate in public spaces, such as Lot 1, which occurred last year with Karamia and Live Breads, and also if they had the permission of adjoining properties, and we had to tighten this up a little bit this year, only because we did have some issues in the previous year, but we want to make sure that there's consent between the two property owners, that they have something signed, and that there's a date of commencement and a date of, when they would be discontinuing the use of the adjoining property. But if there's agreement and we can find ways for our restaurants to operate in different spaces, I think that's really important. And this resolution will allow for that. The third resolution is the closure of Main Street. This is being done or being suggested at this point, and for starting in April for weekends, and then a more permanent closure for the summer months, and then again after Labor Day going back to weekends. To create this space, as well as again promote the ability of use for that, not only for restaurants but also for programming such as live music, fitness classes, art classes, whatever it might be, to activate the entire space of the downtown area, as well as again drawing people to Millburn as a whole, which has a positive impact everywhere. I'm happy to answer any questions about any of those three resolutions from the Township Committee.
Thank you. Does anybody on the committee have any questions for Mr. McDonald in regards to these resolutions?
Yes. Alex, so you will be closing Lot 1 again this year?
If there is interest in doing so from the restaurants, yes.
That would be all of Lot 1?
No. Thank you for that question. It would not. It would be the area that is generally designated for the farmers market. We were able to share that space nicely last year with the restaurants, and that would be the same setup this year.
So that lot for the entire summer would not be available for any parking?
Correct. Under this idea, yes.
Okay, so I will just restate my objection to closing Main Street. I didn't realize it was also going to be the month of April, and then September, October, and November, closing Main Street.
That would be the weekends. I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah.
Weekends. No,
okay.
I hear you.
Yep.
So I'm just going to state my objection. I know I stand alone on this, but I speak for people in the community. I speak for people in my neighborhood. I will state that this is the main artery to get from Livingston down to Springfield, to Union, to Cranford. It is the artery that goes through town, and I just do not agree that it should be closed on a permanent basis like that. So I know I stand alone. I'm quite comfortable doing that, and I don't agree with my fellow township committee people, but that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor, please.
Well, first of all, I want to tell Committeewoman Eglo that I appreciate her opinion, even though we don't always agree. So but I do hear you. But I will say that, we should look at last summer. I think it was a smashing success. I think it gave our residents a place to go. A lot of people are not, commuting, and a lot of the parking is not happening. I think that our main, that a lot of our parking is empty. Our main parking lot, a lot of the lots are empty. In addition to that, I think that what I said to Committeewoman Eglo also before when we spoke on the phone was that we're going to be meeting over the summer, and if there is a problem, if there is undue traffic, it's something that we can relook at over the summer. But I think the restaurants, I think a lot of the restaurants benefited. I think a lot of our residents really liked it. And matter of fact, I haven't had anybody come up to me to complain about it. But anyway.
Well, a lot of people, it's fun. I admit that. I think it is a problem when the traffic backs up. What contingency, Alex, would there be when the traffic is one lane coming down Orchard Hills Road, everyone being forced to turn right, and coming up Main Street, everyone being forced to turn right? It was problematic when we got rid of the left-hand turns. It was first problematic we got rid of the parking on Main Street. Everything we're doing is constricting, and constricting. And it's fun for those couple of restaurants. I think it does suck all the attention onto Main Street. And there are other restaurants. There's a park. There's other places that we want to keep the excitement moving. So, and for emergency vehicles, I know you said that there was never any kind of problem, but I think everyone can attest in this town when they have seen the fire trucks backed up on Millburn Avenue. Now, I don't know if you're going to be changing the light timing and they're going to be purchasing that system that will be going through, but, a 1 to 10 second delay is an issue when you're in an emergency vehicle. But I have a lot of reasons why I don't agree with it. There's a lot of reasons why it's fun. But, this is why we're up here.
Just for the record, I reached out to First Aid, and there were absolutely no problems last year that was brought to our attention. I reached out to them.
Yes, and there was also there's also a lot less activity in town.
Yeah, that's true.
It's, what? I think you're just going to have to keep your eye on things, keep your eye on traffic, keep your eye on emergency vehicles. And if other restaurants and other places in town are seeing that it's not to their benefit, you have to keep that in mind.
I just want to let the public know you will have a opportunity to speak to this before we vote, so don't worry, you will have a chance to speak. Does anyone else on the committee have anything else that they would like to say to these resolutions? But Mr. McDonald.
I would just like to add something further to, just by way of understanding that, learning a little bit from last year as well, and I'll speak to Committeewoman Eglo's points as well. But we did put in these resolutions to make sure that we are addressing the outdoor music, that it would be between the hours of 10, that wouldn't be prohibited between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. We did have some yoga on Main Street last year, which is an early morning activity, but also some issues with noise after hours. Also, we did have a timing scheme done last year to be able to alleviate some of that issues in which you speak of, and so that would be implemented again not during weekend closures, but during any extended closure. This also resolution, once if it is approved, would then be sent down to the Department of Transportation.
And I know that we had a meeting of Ryan, the executive director, and with a resident also to talk about other areas in town, so that to make sure that all the areas in town, not just the downtown, all the districts were going to get attention. That didn't all happen last summer, and we're going to have a discussion about parklets tonight
Correct.
as well. So I just want everybody to know that we are not just focusing on what's going on Main Street, and we are looking to expand all of our attention and assistance to the businesses within all the districts, and we are going to make sure that that happens this summer. That is why we were planning early, and we are open to everybody's suggestions on how we can make that possible. So with that being said, does anybody from the public have any comments that they would like to make on resolutions 21077, 21078, and 21079? And if you, oh, okay.
It's actually more important that the individual speaking as well as the committee is able to see it. It's in the place it needs to be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. If you would like to,
Okay, Tracy Hatch, I'm representing Cafe Monet. I'm also a resident, and so I do appreciate the noise issues. I'm also a resident. I live up by the school. I know the traffic issues with closing Main Street, and it was, as Mr. Assman says, it was a smashing success. And it was seen like that, but in truth it wasn't really, because it was to the detriment of the other businesses, and a lot of people suffered because everybody was squeezed into one place, 5 businesses. There's 30-odd other businesses in the town that didn't get a look in last year. And I just hope that if you are going to do this, and you're obviously quite keen to do this, that you also pick up and get going with the other activities that you're going to put out there for the rest of the town, so we all get off to the same flying start that you gave to Main Street last year. And it was just a disaster for our end of town and other people I spoke to, Mr. Walkers. We have to get the shoppers, we have to get people looking at other bits of the business and not just coming in to drink and have fun in, what is it, like 100 yards in Millburn? There's so much more to Millburn, and it's a responsibility of the town to really get people moving this year rather than just doing what they did last year. They got people into that, squeezed them into that place, which actually a lot of people thought was unsafe because it was so packed. So just hoping this year that you actually will pick up and get a lot more initiatives so that it all gets going. I was looking at other towns. Everybody has lights everywhere. It looks really nice. The only place that has lights is Main Street. What is that about? Why don't we have lights? Why doesn't Millburn have just beautiful lights all the way up? It's just lights strung up there. You know, it's just anything, just to make it a whole complete vision to Millburn rather than what it is. It's just people squeezed into Main Street. So thank you for my time. Okay, what a finish.
thank you. You do have 30 seconds.
Oh, I do?
Stu, if you want to.
That's really all I have to say. And we'll
Thank
cut
you
that.
for your comment.
Can I respond
No,
once?
not right
No,
now.
okay, sorry. Go ahead.
If you're done.
Okay, then.
No, I've pretty much finished. I just want to see that there are some initiatives, and I want to see it written up, right? Not so that it's sort of an afterthought. It should be, like, obviously you're set on the Main Street closing, but we need to see at the same time we're going to close Main Street and we're going to do this because it's forgotten, and the whole season will be done by the time you get your things together.
We hear you, and thank you for your comment.
Thank you very much.
Would anybody else like to make a public comment on those consent agenda items? Please come up to the
My
microphone.
name is Wes. I live in 430 Millburn Avenue, and I also have a small business down the street. And I lived for 35 years. The budget, I'm gonna just talk on like that. The budget, I've been here like 35 years, and the same problem for this town, the same, even not better. It's even worse. But I'm gonna talk about one thing. I think we don't have any creativity or imagination in this room. And all what I'm asking you guys, all what you have to do, go to Summit. I just came from Summit. See how they organize it. Go to Maplewood Village and just copy. Don't reinvent anything. Just copy. You have everybody concentrated in this area. When I came to this place, I did ask to open a restaurant. They said, no, you're not going to have it downtown because we have a problem with the traffic. You have to move somewhere. And I said, okay, this is my town. I live here. I want it to be beautiful. And I moved down there. When I moved down here, you put in all your budget on a small area for 3-4 restaurants. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And if you talk about the money and the budget, I live next to the Millburn High School. The light is 24 hours for the stadium over there. Guys, you have to look at it differently. It's not being a clerk. You don't do the job like it's supposed to be. This is the budget, we're going to take the money. You have to redo something. You have to think out of the box. You have to do that. I know you don't get paid, but you have the chair. You have to do that. I do that, and I don't get any paid. When I see somebody on the street, I take it off and I put it somewhere. If somebody needs help, I do that. And I'm not on the panel. I'm not anything. I do not know. Just I can invite you all for coffee or something to Maplewood. We'll make a field trip to Maplewood Village or Summit. Do that. Do that. I don't know. Are you going to do that? By the way, whatever I'm saying here, my wife, she convinced me to come in to talk. And I said to her, there is no use. It is like a punch and bag. We're going to talk, and you're going to do whatever you want to do. I do not know how the system works. And I'm not very keen to know, actually. But it is like what? Everybody say whatever they want, and that's it. And you're going to just listen, and you do whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. How does this work? Hello?
Well, we have a procedure here, so we will respond.
Do you vote for it, like you will get census, we get something, or you do whatever you want to do at the very end, and we waste our time talking. I don't get it.
Wes, do you have anything else that you would like to say?
I need an answer.
Well, I understand that you want an answer, and I'm going to give you an answer. So if you're done
Yeah,
with
one
your
more thing.
Yes.
Is it the budget you just said, and you try to compare with other town and another city? Can we get that, because you spent like maybe half an hour explaining something that we could have written or something? And if you want to compare something, compare to different similar town, not, we did this, we did that. No, we want to see. Can we see that?
Wes, thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Am I going to come next week or whatever meeting, or we're going to waste time?
Wes, we are going to continue the conversation, and you are not wasting your time.
What?
I said we are going to continue this conversation, and you are not wasting your time.
Are we going to get a result?
Yeah,
That's what I'm
okay.
asking.
Yes, Wes.
I hope so,
I hope-
because I'm
yes.
going to be watching you like a hawk, guys.
Okay. Thank you, Wes. Okay.
Good evening, Perry Urso. Sorry. I'm actually here just to speak. I'm here for Enzo's tonight. And I'm not actually representing Enzo's. I'm representing fellow restaurateurs. I'll give you the visual of a hurricane. Millburn downtown is the eye of the hurricane. And if you do a continual circle around and around, we are the outskirts of the eye of the hurricane. I know that. I knew that 28 years ago when I came here. When we first were acquiring a spot, it was actually where the Ling Ling exists today. It wasn't for us. And it was our choice to be where we are today. I didn't come to the Township Committee. I didn't come to Alex to ask, I need help. But what you're doing, and I feel, and Mr. Wasserman, you have repeatedly said that you've talked to restaurant owners and restaurant owners. Well, guess what? So have I. And the majority, obviously, we're not talking to the same people, have not heard from you. In saying that, you need to unify us. You're in an eatery business, in the restaurant, or, food type business. We need to be allies and not enemies. And I'm not here because what you're doing, the closure of Main Street. I'm here because what you need to do, what you're doing in Main Street, to the eye, it is not right. It doesn't look right. And people are not stupid. So what you need to do is try to figure out a model how you're going to move around and give it to everybody else. I feel badly for the other restaurants that are in that town. I don't feel badly for myself. I am not here for me. We are sustaining ourselves. We're doing what we have to do. We're reinventing the wheel. We get it. But I'm sticking together and behind my fellow restaurateurs and eateries, and we can help each other. We are. But you need to have that same objective. You need to really talk to other restaurateurs and how can you help us? You guys talked about lighting. Well, I just came here from 514 Millburn Avenue, Upper Millburn Ave. Guess what? It wasn't until I got halfway into Millburn, we've got lights all the way downtown Millburn. Well, guess what? You want the expanded district? It starts from Morris Avenue all the way to Vauxhall. It should go to Main Street all the way down to La Familia. I mean, you have to make it inclusive. And you are not making us inclusive. You're dividing. And right now there's a lot of restaurants and people that are struggling, and they're happy to, fight with each other or complain and file complaints on one another because one place is busier than the other place. Really what people should be doing is concentrating on their business and do what works for their own model. However, if you're going to do for one area, you need to do for the entire community. You are here for the entire community. Thank you for your time. And good luck for my fellow restaurateurs.
Thank you, Ms. Urso.
Sorry.
Are there any other
Urso, wow.
comments on the consent agenda?
That's not consent.
Yes, sorry, the resolutions. On the
Nancy
resolution.
Stone, Nancy and David Fine Jewels, in reference to closing the Main Street, I didn't have an objection to it. I don't know if I'm in favor of it as long as a period of time, because I do believe again, speaking on behalf of other restaurants that I patronize, they all complain. I don't know who you're talking to, but they all complain that everything's about the standard and the residual for the rest. And no, it's a shiny penny, and I happen to love the standard. I think it was a tremendous investment to the community, and they certainly deserve to have their investment pay off. But that's not to the detriment to Moonshine, to Basilico, to La Strada, to Cafe Monet, who was actually not even going to come in tonight. He was going to leave because he said, it's a waste of time talking to them. And he kind of said that towards the end. And I said, no. Just even come in and tell them to their faces that it is a waste of time talking to you because you're going to vote and do whatever the hell you want anyway. So it really doesn't matter. So I think the respect should be given. I also want to put on the record, Alex, that was the first time you were ever fresh to me, and I'm not going to put up with it. And that clock should be moved so that we can at least see it too. We're seeing it here, but it is a good visual reminder to be able to gauge time. And I can also share with someone who is texting me, who's on the Zoom, who can't share, that they don't know how much time is left. So maybe you should consider in the budget, maybe you could put it in the SID budget, Richard, to buy another clock here so that people who are watching can see the time as well. So you're forgiven because I love you, but it was not nice, and I'm holding you on task for that.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Any other public comments on the resolutions?
Don't call me Miss Stone. It sounds stupid.
Okay.
Nancy, you've always known me as Nancy.
Yes.
Mayor,
Mr.
if the public comment portion is closed, I just want to add some clarifications to these resolutions as well. The one involving public property or the ability to use adjoining properties, that does apply everywhere. It is, while we're using Lot 1 as an example, it is not the only. So again, speaking to if it works, because there are other areas that it's not as simple as Main Street in the sense that we don't have other streets to close or we don't. So one of the conversations that will be ongoing tonight is a parklet conversation about how we're going to apply parklets throughout the township to those parties that are interested. And the resolution for the lots is also an open discussion for those who may be interested. And just by way of example, and I know Perry was not here, Ms. Urso was not here for herself or her restaurant, but Lot 14 would be another example of that. The possibility of using a portion of that for outdoor dining. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Right, and so as we continue this conversation, I mean, we have Ryan Gleason is the executive director of our bid, and he is going to be reaching out to all the businesses to figure out what they need, and we are going to do our best to accommodate everybody.
Yeah, and we have money in the SID budget to address lighting in all the districts, and which is going to come up in a discussion next week, and at our discussion when this is presented. But I
Great.
do agree that the focus of the SID will be all the districts.
Right. Mr. Vignani,
I think the gentleman who was here, I'm sorry if I didn't get his name, but I think he has a point, and Ms. Tracy, again, sorry, I don't know your last name again, but I think they have a point. It is very good to close the street that we have closed, but we need to figure out what we can do to other businesses right down the street. Whatever we can do. Maybe they can come up with an idea and share that with us. It'll be a good addition. Thank you.
any other comments from the committee members before we vote?
I'll just lastly say, it's not just about the businesses, it's about the circulation and the traffic pattern in this town. It's a one-lane town, it's a cross, a T, whatever you want to call it, and by shutting down that main artery, and I didn't even realize it was also September, October, November. What happens when restaurants are back to full capacity? Are we still going to be closing Main Street? Is this the beginning of a continuous situation that Main Street will be closed almost 6 months of the year, even though it's just weekends? Everyone stopped coming to Millburn when the traffic pattern changed. I can easily walk into Millburn Center. My husband and I, before the pandemic, walked in every Friday night and would go to a different restaurant. That has changed. And if this is a continuation of people who can't easily access Millburn, up and down Millburn Avenue, up and down Essex Street, up and around the town, no matter what Ryan can do, that is a big, big stumbling block. That's never going to change. The longer people know that they will get in the habit that it's closed, it's a pain in the neck. I'm going to go to Maplewood, I'm going to go to Summit, or I'm going to just learn new places. So my objection to that one stands, and I'm just really shocked that it's going to be for a continuation almost of a 6-month weekend closure, because when school goes back in session and you have kids going to soccer practice and Little League and what have you, if they're up at Little League, up at Taylor Park, up at Giro, it's going to be a lot easier to go to Livingston and go for pizza. And you want people to come to Millburn. That's why this SID was reestablished. And I don't think that that is a welcoming thing to be closing the main strip to get anywhere in this town. And that's my last comment on that.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 21-077?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
A roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins?
Yes.
Ms. Eglo?
Yep.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
Yes.
Mayor Prupus?
Yes.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve Resolution 21-078?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins?
Yes.
Ms. Eglo?
Abstain.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
Yes.
Mayor Prupus?
Yes.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve Resolution 21-079?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
A roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins,
Yes.
Ms. Eglo,
No.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mayor Prupus.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I would like to present an ordinance entitled Ordinance Number 2570-21. The ordinance amending Chapter 7 Traffic of Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Millburn. The proposed amendment to the Chapter 7 Traffic Code of Millburn's General Ordinance is to establish rules, regulations, and fees with regard to a new residential shopper parking permit. This permit would be made available to Millburn Township residents to provide enhanced convenience to patronizing any of the township's business districts where a fee may be charged for on-street park or lot parking. This permit will also incentivize residents to shop local and support township business. By purchasing an annual residential shopper parking permit, holders would be permitted to park in designated shopper spaces for the allotted time without paying by meter or pay station. Time limits will still be enforced under this permit. Rules for use will be established by ordinance to avoid use by businesses or any abuse of the program that would detract from its goal and purpose. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with the law in the item and hearing for final passage on Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. Did I skip something?
Nope.
Oh,
You
we're
made a
still
motion.
good. Do I just, we don't talk about it? We're good? Okay. All right. Can I get a second?
A motion?
A motion. Second, I moved it. Oh, yeah, so now I need a second.
Second.
Great. A roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins,
Yes.
Ms. Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mayor Prupus.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, Mr. McDonald, in terms of getting this information out to the public, and when will it be starting, and,
I'm sorry, for the permit?
yes,
So it won't start until after the public hearing and final adoption.
Okay.
But we did order the stickers in anticipation, just a few of them, so that we could see how they looked. We wanted to make sure they were bright, had the proper information on it. But I think what we'll do is, obviously, this ordinance, as a proposed ordinance, will be put on the township website, as well as we'll be sure to get the word out very promptly after the passage, so that we can start April 1st. Kind of using that date as a lot of dates, but
Yeah.
we'd look to have it April 1st, and I would note that because it would be on the quarter. That we would prorate this annual parking permit for 3/4 of the year. You pay for 3/4 of the year. I will note too that once the ordinance passes, I think that then a resolution at the same meeting will need to be passed to establish the fee, which has a range right now.
okay. Thank
And
you.
one more question. If somebody moves into town in June, they can buy a 6-month?
Yeah, I think at this point we would prorate it. Yep.
Great. Okay. Old business. So we have, Ms. Canfield is with us tonight to, we're going to continue the discussion around your request, and I believe that you have some more information to us and would like to come speak to the committee.
I do, thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Committee. I appreciate you listening to me again. I'd first like to just kind of do a review. I stood in front of this committee on February 9th to discuss what was needed for the Historic Commission. I'll group the three together, which is the design guidelines and the educational outreach and the landmark designation. I also came to you or mentioned the master plan historic element and the need for an updated version, since that was not done since 1991.
I'm coming to you today to talk about a downtown resource survey. It has been made very clear, sitting on various committees, a task force, and also listening even to the audience, that to preserve the downtown from overdevelopment, we really need to do some kind of resource inventory survey of the downtown, and as soon as possible, so that in the future, the township and the public would be in a better position to make informed decisions about potential redevelopment in the activities that are going on in town. This would be a survey of properties in the core downtown area. The survey would compile a record of each property within the downtown master plan area. The survey would consist of maps, photographs, and details about each building and or lot. So that would be very helpful in making decisions also for the public, and I think it would be a great resource. There is absolutely no downside to this survey. This survey would support and direct town officials, the Department of Planning and Development, zoning, SID, HPC, and most important, the public. And I think it would educate all of us to make, again, better informed decisions as a whole and as a group with having this survey done. We don't know what our resources are. So with that, I want to just tell you that this has never been done in the town of Millburn, to my knowledge. And on behalf of what I believe is a resident, HPC chair, this should be the very foundation, no pun intended here, to a successful vision and plan for our downtown moving forward. We have to all be on the same page here. So I'm going to challenge you with something. If knowledge is power, let's invest in what we don't know, and let's see, and so we can do our jobs better. So this is what we don't know. We don't know our resources. We don't know how the town looks on paper, with photographs, identifying properties, whether they are even historic, not historic, if we have empty lots. But I think it would be a great resource, not only to HPC, but also to the whole town. So again, I thank you for your support and understanding, and I think now is the time to support the HPC, and your investment towards this commission's work is not lost, but if you can think of it as a reimbursement to the town's future. I thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Canfield. So, just to be clear, what are you exactly requesting from us tonight?
Well,
And the money amount as well?
sure. I came to you asking for $25,000, and then the comment was brought up about the master plan element. At that point, I did express the $25,000 and that would be $50,000 at that point. As I have sat on these committees and observed what's happening, and we do have the resources right now, I'm asking for an additional 25 for a survey to be done of the downtown. So we're all on the same page and understand, especially now with Sid first coming in, the vision of the downtown, and then to help support the element of the master plan, all elements of the master plan actually, when it comes to redeveloping and planning, zoning, HPC, et cetera. So these are the three things in this short period of time. I wish I would have come to you in the beginning and asked for this. But again, this is the first time HBC has been allowed to observe and understand what resources we have that we could give back to you. So out of the 75,000 I'm asking from you to immediately start these projects, which they do take some time, some 3, 4, 5 months. And with your approval, we have to wait and we have to go through then, your approval, town, the public. So it takes some time, and the sooner we can start on these projects, I think the better. And I think, I apologize for not coming to you, but again, I didn't really have that open door to come to you before this, and I would really appreciate your support. The HPC hasn't had the support or the open door. I've been on for 13 years, so I would like you to consider my ask.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Canfield, and I am so glad you're here. I'm going to open this up to the committee for any questions for Ms. Canfield at this point.
Okay, so are you asking for the first 25,000 and an additional 25,000 for the survey, or an additional 50 for the survey?
Well, there's 3 components to this. I came and asked you about a designation, the design guidelines, and the education and outreach, which
Right.
was my presentation.
So that was the 25.
Right. And then as we got to talking, the question was about the last time we did the historical design element to the master plan. And that was done in 1991. So I thought that would be a really great priority to what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And then after sitting with the various committees, I recognized the real need for, especially with SID and zoning, the real need for a downtown survey. So in total, I'm asking for $75,000 with a reimbursement from grants of 50.
Oh. So in essence, you're still asking for the initial 25?
But if I wait for the grants.
No,
it
no,
won't
I
get started.
understand. I just want to know, since this township committee is really pushing this vision plan to be done by April, end of March, how will this survey get done in time to give us really important information before development may start?
Well, just because because there's no development happening, the plan,
I'm
there's
just
so many
asking.
processes. Yeah,
Okay,
but I'm
so
not
this would
sure
be done
that-
in time?
Yeah, but you're making it seem like something, like we're gonna have shovels, like,
No,
this
no,
is
no.
such a long, this is years we're talking about here, so I think.
But that's what I want to, I'm trying to make that clear, that if this takes 3 to 4 months to get really important information, nothing's going to happen from a downtown vision plan without having this to work with, if we approve it.
No, I disagree. I think it's not just about the vision of the downtown. It's about supporting all departments of the township. I don't think we've all been marching to the same beat here. And the survey, to me, is the ground foundation to future and how we look at, from all the boards and really the element to the master plan that's truly been missing from
Absolutely.
all aspects.
No, I'm saying I agree with you, but if there's a
Yes.
vision plan being looked at, this would be important to have as part of that.
A piece of it probably,
Yeah.
but it's not the total vision of,
But it's a segment of it that should be included.
I think it's a huge part to all aspects of the vision of this town.
Right, I'm agreeing with you.
Does anyone else have any questions?
So this downtown vision plan, or not vision plan, this downtown element that you're talking about, how's that different from the master plan? You're also talking about historical preservation element in the master plan. Wouldn't that also include downtown in there?
No, unfortunately, it doesn't. The survey of the downtown is a separate piece from it's included in the master plan, but it's different than the new element, historic element to the master plan. So it's an additional, it's an additional piece to that. I didn't realize that it had never been done before until I sat in a committee meeting this last week. To to me, that's, again, I can only say, is the true foundation to our resources to be able to make decisions.
So you promise you won't ask for any more money in 2021?
You've made it very difficult for me, I understand, no. Reality is, this piece, I feel, really gives us this base and this foundation. It doesn't catch us up completely, but I'm more than happy to put a 3-year plan together and no longer beg, borrow, and steal here and ask you for your support. So if you trust me, I promise you, you will not regret supporting us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Countfield?
Well, I'll make a comment. We've spoken for a few times, and I will say that, I was a little bit, oh, I'm sorry. I was a little bit, I was a little hesitant because I didn't really know that much about your work. But there are so many great historical sites in town, and I think you've won me over in thinking that it might be really, I see it now more of as a investment. So, and you're saying that the grant money that you get back would come back to the township.
Exactly. We would file for the grant. The
Yeah.
first grant was for the Certified Local Government Grant for the element of the master plan. The survey would come from, there's so many I can't keep track. The other one would come from the New Jersey Historic Trust, which we would file right away with your permission to do so. But again, we know that the money's out there, we just don't know when we'll receive it, and I think all 3 of these proposed ideas, to me, are a priority and long overdue. So again, I appreciate, and not only that, but knowing that some of our historic properties right now in town are in great jeopardy, as developers are looking at some of these places to redevelop.
Great. So,
Okay.
and Ms. Canfield, you have my full support. So it seems that we're all in agreement here?
Agreement.
Agreement. So it's the consensus of the Township Committee that we award the requested $75,000 to the HPC.
Wow, thank you guys very much. And
Can I ask one question, though? This needs to be started immediately in order to help as well with Diane's, Committeewoman Egglow's point. You're going to start all of this work immediately. So how can we help you to start the work immediately?
I think right now you have 2 proposals in front of you, or should have. I know they've been given to Alex, one for the special projects of the design guidelines designation and to complete the education or the design guidelines and then the education piece. Also, there's a second proposal that I believe you've all received for the element of the master plan. I can push to get you then the additional piece for the survey ASAP. Barton would need a signature right away to get moving on it, and he can get moving on all 3 at the same time.
How does that happen?
Mr. McDonald, can you?
Yeah, I just want to be, again, my concern is just a little bit on, the process and just understanding, and I'd like to have a little bit further conversation with Barton and yourself just about and again, we don't need to get into all the details here, but I think we need to be cognizant of if the grant is being applied for, what the requirements of the application for the grant are, and just making sure that we can ensure that that money is coming back to the township once it's filed, not necessarily when it's done, but I'd just like a little bit of time to evaluate the process going forward. I think what the committee is doing tonight in terms of having consensus that this money would be included in the budget, and that the work would be done is certainly the first big step in that. But I just want to be a little bit just pragmatic about how that goes forward, just to make sure that the grant is followed.
But let's just say we don't get the grant. Are we not going to do it?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, because if we,
I think you're actually going ahead of the grant I
Correct.
think the idea is, though, that there's still requirements of the grant that you need to adhere to, so that so you have the possibility of getting the grant, that's
Right,
all.
right,
So
but
I
I
can speak on
I don't
behalf-
believe we should be waiting. And like, I'd like to see this get started right away, especially with all the things that are going on within the town and everything getting planned. So I think, in my opinion, that we should be signing off on this. You should be doing your grant writing, because the goal is to get the grants, and you're going to give us the money back, and that's terrific, and thank you very much. But I don't think we should wait. Mr. Falcon, what is your thought on this?
No, I think what was being pointed out was that this is, you're not really making an award, but what you are going to do is amend the municipal budget or include it in the municipal budget and start the grant process right away so that you can get a handle on what are going to be the requirements of the grant and conditions so that these can kind of flow together, hopefully during the course of the same year.
But do we not have to sign contracts in order for them to start the work?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you'll have to find firms that, I forget, Allison, what was the firm in Princeton that did the original survey? They were Falwell, Mills and Gatch or something. I mean, there are people who have to be retained to do these things as professional services or, as it comes forward.
Right.
But that's not before you now. That'll be downstream. I think what you're indicating tonight is that you're amenable to funding these requests, putting it in the municipal budget. Alex is going to make sure that the grant process will work and what the conditions might be, and then it'll be, as it unfolds, you'll take the steps needed to, physically implement the provision of services to accomplish it.
If I could have some input on this, this is something we've thought about for some time, and this is something that's always been on our plate. So I know we meet the requirements of the grants. So we will get that information to you right away. I'd also like to request this committee to appoint Barton Ross. He is the expert of our town and has worked for our town for many years to do these projects. And moving forward, so we can do them as quickly as we possibly can. Barton has been dedicated to this town for many years. He knows this town. He knows the history of this town. So that is a request that I'm asking this committee to have Barton follow through with all of these pieces.
Is there a certain designation for that, or just?
So how about this?
Can-
Mr. McDonald, next Monday, Tuesday, we'll get a meeting with Committeewoman Miggins, Ms. Canfield, you, me, and we will get this whole, you'll have some
Process.
time to dig in and
Yep.
figure this out, and we will get this all solved by early next week.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I thank you for your support.
Thank
all
you
of
for your,
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much for
Yeah.
your work.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
A parklet update, Mr. McDonald.
Yes, just a brief update on the parklets. We had discussed this as another element of the business advocacy, trying to assist in the restaurant businesses throughout the entire township and all the districts where applicable and where those restaurants may be interested. I had a conversation with the Explore Millburn Short Hills Executive Director, Ryan Gleason. He and I have sort of set on a path where we are currently researching other municipalities and how they've handled those parklets, as well as he is reaching out to the restaurants to gauge interest in particular areas so that we can assess where parklets may be going, where the interest may lie, and we are developing guidelines for those parklets. Sort of just by way of brief preview, but certainly not set in stone, would be something to the effect of that the township would provide for the safety of the parklet through barriers or other barricades. The restaurant would be responsible for, setting up that parklet in a way that, to their aesthetics and that they want. One requirement may be just that the parklet area is flush with the curb to maintain safety. And so these are things that we're working through to be able to present to those that may be interested. There would be no fee for that, but there would be some build out, I think, on the part of the restaurant to make sure that it has the attributes or the aesthetics and things that they desire. So the first step right now that is ongoing is that we are doing research on our end. He is reaching out to the restaurants to gain interest.
Great. Does anybody on the committee have any questions for Mr.?
I just want to ask you, I think I spoke to you about this last summer, how your town of Cranford, where you live, and Westfield had actually safety like the things you see on the highway.
Yeah, so they had concrete barricades.
Right, whereas we had the water, I mean, they looked a little better, they're a little more uniform. So would you be talking about something like that? I think, yeah.
We have priced those out, and certainly that is an option. You know, sort of the better part of the barriers, it's not that they necessarily weigh a different amount or provide a different crash rating or anything like that. It's just that they actually, the water-filled barricades are more visible at night. They have the reflective stickers on them, which is important. But we did look into that, and I think that's an option as well, especially depending on where it is. I have seen those, and I think, you know, I agree with you. They do have a different sort of appeal to them. They don't look as, I don't know, clunky.
It's plasticky.
Right, exactly.
And they could be painted, the concrete ones, if someone chose to paint them, or no?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think that is an option. Also, you know, again, you can get, I'm sure there's reflective paint. There's, you know, different things like that could help with the safety aspect as well.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments, questions? Okay. So moving on to number 3, business advocacy zoning regulations recommendations. And I believe we have our town planner,
You
Mr.
got
Paul Phillips.
Yep, he's there. He just
On
needs
the
to be
line?
brought in. Did you make him a panelist?
Perry, you're on the screen.
You know, there's.
Okay.
21.
I think I'm in.
We hear you.
Mayor, would you like me to intro into this?
Sure.
Okay. So tonight we have the township planner. The township has been working on with the input of several people. You know, the idea of advancing some of these zoning ordinances for the sake of business advocacy. Paul is helping with that effort, and so I think is going to speak to those ordinances just to provide an intro to the committee and some details about that and to the public as well.
Thanks, Alex, and good evening, everyone. I'd like to just provide a little context as we move forward, and just to say that the township has actually taken a series of actions over the last several years with regard to its business zones and the CBD zone in particular. And I would add that specifically as part of the 2018 master plan, a number of recommendations were made, which included a number of recommended zoning changes, as well as actually the undertaking of the downtown vision plan, which is now well underway. That was one of the recommendations of the plan. And as you may also recall, that back in 2019, in terms of zoning modifications, the Township Committee actually expanded the list of permitted uses in all the business zones except for the B1 zone, which is the mall. And it also provided for three-story buildings in the B4 district, and that was all done in 2019. And as Alex indicated, the administration's currently moving forward with some additional zoning modifications that are really, I think, intended to do the following. I think there's two main reasons for this. One is to respond to concerns that have been raised regarding the current zoning needing to be more business friendly. And secondly, to put Millburn's downtown in a more competitive position in terms of attracting the types of businesses that are likely to locate in a downtown setting as we kind of go forward. So as Alex indicated, I've been tasked with drafting these changes on behalf of the Township Committee. I would also point out that a number of the recommendations were either echoed or actually advanced by Perkins Eastman as part of the downtown vision study work that they've done to date. So briefly, I'll give you a preview of what is coming in terms of draft zoning amendments. Number one, there are going to be some modifications to the off-street parking requirement in the D4 district, which is the downtown district. I will say that this has been a bit of a moving target over the years. And I would guess that about 8 to 10 years ago, the ordinance was amended, and it actually added a downtown parking waiver requirement. That waiver requirement basically said that for any change in use that did not trigger an increase in the parking requirement, an applicant would not have to make a development application before any particular board. Even though that parking requirement, that parking didn't otherwise meet the parking standard in the ordinance. The problem is that there have been certain instances where there's a change of use that increases the off-street parking requirement. And the classic has been a retail store going to a restaurant. And because restaurants based on seating, that necessarily increase or trips that parking requirement. And what's happened is businesses have had to apply to the reviewing board, and they've had to seek relief. And the board has also typically required the applicants to purchase municipal parking permits as part of that application process. And I don't need to tell the Township Committee that this process is expensive for applicants. And in many cases, it's a prospective new business, and it has the effect of discouraging such businesses from actually pursuing an application in the township. You well know that applicants have to, retain land use counsel and professional experts, and it's costly. So the intent here would be to eliminate that current trigger provision as part of the downtown parking waiver so that there would be no additional parking required in the B4 zone for any change of use, period, even if it were to trip that parking requirement. So no development application that basically moves into space would have to be made. So that's the big issue with regard to parking. The second thing we're looking into is expanding the list of permitted uses in the zone. And as I mentioned, back in 2019, we added such things as instructional schools and studios, showrooms, art studios, galleries. I think we had educational play centers, the kind of uses that have been moving to downtown in the last several years. And the intent would be to actually expand that list further. And we've received some input also, as I mentioned, for Perkins Eastman. So uses that would be considered such as brew pubs, theaters, museums, co-working space, and also allow for certain office type uses to go on the ground floor where they're not allowed currently. And to do that where those uses would actually generate some amount of walk-in traffic as you want to activate the street. So for example, the ordinance right now allows financial institutions and real estate offices, but if you were an insurance broker, you couldn't take a ground floor space. So what we want to do is kind of loosen that up again to expand the uses in the B4 district. The next one's a big one. It's to modify the regulations governing restaurants. Right now, actually the B2, B3, and B4 zones, the zoning allows restaurants. It doesn't allow any drive-through restaurants, but it allows restaurants as a conditional use. So the single condition in the ordinance is that the closest part of the structure be at least 125 feet from the nearest lot line of a single-family dwelling in an abutting residential zone. So if that condition is not met, the applicant needs to obtain an approval from the zoning board for what's known as a D3 variance. Jurisdictionally, it has to go to the zoning board. But this is not what's been the primary problem. Some applications have gone to the zoning board, but the primary problem is that even if a restaurant is more than 125 foot separated from the nearest residential lot line, because it is still only permitted as a conditional use based on the mandates of the municipal land use law, a restaurant user must initially file an application with the planning board. And again, even if it complies, you have a situation where a prospective restaurant owner, new restaurant owner moving into what might have been another space, has to now spend time and money and effort to make an application to the planning board, and the planning board really doesn't have any jurisdiction because they've met the 125-foot standard. So I think the solution here is straightforward. What we can do is we can change the zoning so that a restaurant that actually meets the 125-foot standard becomes a permitted principal use, period. It would eliminate any need to go to the planning board. And at the same time, at least for the time being, we can continue to designate only those restaurants that do not meet the 125-foot standard as a conditional use. And what we really need to do if we go down that road is we need to basically establish some other standards for that conditional use where the 125-foot separation is not met. And they would be standards that would be designed to afford additional protections to any of the adjacent residences. So I think this is sort of the win-win solution to this dilemma. The next item that we're looking into is establishing a CCO, or what's known as a Certificate of Continued Occupancy, or alternatively, a registration permit requirement for businesses. This would also apply to any new business moving into an existing space. The point here is to allow employee permit parking to be addressed administratively on an annual basis rather than haphazardly. Some applicants have had to go to the planning board, which has been sort of in charge of who has to get permits and so forth. So this is a better way to manage the employee parking downtown. And also, since we're changing the zoning, as I just described, not as many of these applicants are going to be going to the planning board. So that kind of dovetails with that recommendation as well. And then the last thing is, and this is has to do with signage. So your existing sign ordinance is outdated. It's difficult to navigate. It's not comprehensive. It's not illustrative. It really needs an overhaul. And the intent, I think, is to do this one in a more deliberate manner. I think there are a number of key stakeholders that need to be involved in this. I think you'll probably want to form sort of a working committee or group to move this forward. But all of the other changes that I've discussed, I think can and should be done in relatively short order as part of a series of zone changes that I think could be packaged as part of one comprehensive zoning amendment. So Alex and Tara, that kind of gives you a broad overview of what we've been tasked to do and how we tend to go about it.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips, for that great description. Do any of my committee members have any questions for Mr. Phillips? Okay, so you will continue. When do you think you will have those, that bundle of ordinances ready for us to consider?
So I think Alex and I discussed that briefly, Tara, and I think that I can probably have a draft ready sometime within the next probably 2 weeks. But I think that to do this right, I think the Township Committee should take the time to take a look at it, and then we have some time, and perhaps, maybe we can, if everything goes well, we might be able to schedule a first reading for, let's say, the second meeting in March, and this will give us the better part of 10 days, 2 weeks to work any kinks out, rather than try and rush it and try and put it on a first reading within only days of when you might get a draft. I mean, at least that would be my recommendation, and Alex, you can chime in as well, obviously.
I agree.
Okay, that sounds great. And in the meantime, we will start discussing on our end a subcommittee to look at the sign ordinance. And then we will kind of move that separately along and engage you once we have a working group within the township. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Phillips about these particular, is everyone good?
Good.
Okay. So next we have the status update on the downtown redevelopment area. And so, Mr. Phillips, please stay on the call with us. And
Yes.
Okay, so and I've also asked former Mayor Dan Baer to be in the room tonight because I know that a lot of questions have come up about the 2008 redevelopment plan and the process that he was involved with in the township. So I'm not sure if Mr. Baer, are you speaking first, or is Mr. Phillips going to speak?
I reserve 15 minutes of my time for the gentleman to himself.
Yeah, no,
I
yeah.
think it would be appropriate, I talked to Paul that he would go through his discussion.
Okay.
Because mine dovetail.
Fabulous. All right, perfect, thank you. So, Mr. Phillips, would you like to take us away on the downtown redevelopment area and what you have found with your examination into?
Surely.
Great.
So I was asked to look at the redevelopment area designation that was put in place for select properties in the downtown back in 2007. I had actually authored the investigation, which was done by the planning board actually in late 2006. And my main focus on that review was in relation to, number one, what has changed over time, and number two, whether the redevelopment area designation remains appropriate and legally sound so that the township could proceed with a redevelopment plan for all or a part of this area should it choose to do so. And I think the short answer to that second question is yes. And I also know that Joe Mariziti supports that opinion as well. And I believe, Tara, he indicated as much at the last Township Committee meeting.
Correct.
With regard to the first question, the area, just to refresh everyone's memory, the redevelopment area includes largely municipal property. So it would include the town hall property, the municipal parking lots, the public works facility, the police and fire properties, and the parking garage. There are 5 other properties along Essex Street which contain what I guess were once residential dwellings. Most of them have been converted for commercial business use. The only substantive change conditions since 2016 and 2017 is that the township acquired what was then if you recall, the Rimback warehouse property, and they demolished that building, and now it's municipal property. And then the township also built the parking garage on what was previously a surface parking area. Everything else is pretty much as it was back at the time we did the investigation. The only other point I would make is that all of this land is within the limits of what Perkins Eastman is evaluating in terms of the downtown vision plan. And the consultant team is aware of the area needed redevelopment designation and is taking that into account as part of its overall recommendations. So that I think is important in moving forward. So I think at this time, probably the prudent course of action would be to see how Perkins Eastman's downtown vision plan recommendations relate to the redevelopment area and also immediately surrounding properties. And once that's done, I think township will be in a position to determine how it will proceed with the redevelopment area in terms of a specific redevelopment plan. So, Tara, that's how that gives you sort of a status update and as I see it moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Does any of the committee members have any questions for Mr. Phillips at this time? Okay. Mayor Bear, would you like to?
Seems like only yesterday when we did all this, right? Yeah. Anyways, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, Mayor, committee. It's good to see all of you. Jesse, it's good to see you, and Alex, and Kit. It's good to see you, Paul, you too. I am here to, at the mayor's request, to discuss the 2008 plan that was prepared subsequent to the area needs study. It was a master plan that looked at the opportunities to kind of reposition the town using the area of need as kind of a focal point for development in the downtown area. So again, I'm here tonight at the mayor's request to discuss the 2008 plan for development in the downtown, and understand that at times my name has been attached to that plan. It's known as Dan Bear's plan. But I wish I could take credit for that plan, because I think it was a really good plan. While it was not implemented fully in 2008, it certainly has driven decisions on zoning and circulation in the subsequent years. And however, even though I can't take credit for the plan, I will take credit for the process. And working with Kit, we had developed a process. And the plan was a result of not one, but hundreds and even thousands of voices in the town. And many of these people here were very active in that plan. And it was born from numerous community meetings and discussions and represented a variety of ideas, from township representatives to landlords to property owners, merchants, and of course, the public. Other towns were interviewed as well. And much like your present day effort, this was a master plan, a vision plan, which established the framework for future investment. It was not a subdivision plan, something that specifically details what would be constructed. The plan established the palette for future actions by the township committee that could be taken. I just want to make sure that the nuance of a master plan and vision plan are understood. So let me provide a definition. A master vision plan is a dynamic process that results in a vision for short and long-term planning that provides a palette to guide the future growth and development. The master planning is about integrated and holistic thinking that creates the connection between the built environment, social interaction, and the natural environment. And a master plan includes vision, goals and objectives, analysis, options for development, alternatives, residential and workforce populations, the economy, transportation, circulation, community assets, and something you need to think about today, the changes in technology. Now, the process that we went through was different. The Township Committee was not, let me repeat, was not directly involved in the development of the plan. That role was turned over to a subcommittee on the planning board, who worked closely with the consultant and the community to develop the 2008 plan. As mentioned, this plan responded to the demands of 2008 and a vision in the future. It addressed the needs of the downtown retail, the township residential market. It focused on improvements in vehicular circulation, provided for shared mobility opportunities. I'm glad we talked about Bike Day today. It was very important then and today. And increases in bike access and safety. Most importantly, it was a plan that would essentially pay for itself through developer investments. A very important point of that plan. Now, this was one of the first comprehensive looks at the downtown area. The plan recognized that if certain improvements were not realized or implemented, that our competition, the surrounding towns, would take more than their share of the market. And unfortunately, that has taken place. So why was this plan not implemented? And I think there's a couple reasons for that. Timing was one of those. We entered into as we remember, a deep recession in 2008. And I do think, and Kit, you may agree, that there was a misunderstanding of what a master plan is and was. And remember that as you move forward with your vision plan. It sets a palette. It establishes a framework. It doesn't necessarily identify exactly what's going to be built, okay? But it sets the path. And then always politics. However, I'm proud to say while the plan in total was not implemented, it kept the discussion on the table. Subsequent changes have occurred in the downtown that are tied to that action, including the increase in building heights in the downtown B4 zone, allowing for that additional third floor residential use. There are modifications to pedestrian circulation to provide a safer environment. New multi-unit residential development in the downtown, and all of these were part of that 2008 discussion. Now, hopefully, all this has been helpful as you enter into your planning process and you continue to move forward. But you have a different task ahead of you, one that addresses completely different market forces and new technologies. And your plan should also focus on those opportunities to make the town more sustainable and resilient. More sustainable and resilient, as will position you for possible grants. Moreover, you will never achieve total consensus, believe me, on any idea or opportunity, and that's okay. Some level of consent is the best that you will do. However, the vision plan needs ownership, and each member of the community who chooses to be involved needs some level of pride of authorship in this plan, and I am sure they will. So I congratulate you, Mayor, and the rest of the Township Committee for taking the steps to address an enormous need for the downtown and the town in total. So thank you for the opportunity to speak and address your request tonight, and I wish you the best of luck. I wish you all stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Moving on to our fifth item of old business, recreational marijuana. Mr. Falcon, would you like to just kind of give us a little update of where we are in this moment?
Yeah, I'd like to give you a quick overview. As we know, the bill was signed yesterday into law by Governor Murphy. That commences the 180-day clock that I mentioned during our last meeting for you to make some important decisions with respect to this. The bill establishes 6 possible licenses of marijuana use. The first one is a marijuana cultivator license, which would allow a person or an entity to cultivate and produce, sell, and transport to the other classes marijuana. The second is a manufacturer license, which allows a person or an entity to process marijuana items by purchasing or otherwise obtaining usable marijuana, manufacturing, packaging it, so forth. The third class is a wholesaler license, where any person or entity that purchases or obtains, stores, sells, transfers marijuana items for the purpose of resale to either another marijuana wholesale enterprise or a marijuana retailer, but not to a consumer. The fourth is a license for transporting of marijuana in bulk intrastate cultivator to another cultivator, a transporter from one class to another licensed class, and it can also temporarily store marijuana. The fifth is the retailer who sells to consumers from a retail store. The sixth is a delivery license where a person or entity provides a courier service for consumer purchases filled by the marijuana retailer in order to deliver the marijuana items to the consumer. You have the opportunity under the legislation to adopt an ordinance whereby you could prohibit all or certain of these classes, allowing others. It can be a mix and match, or you may decide that you want not to do anything with any of these classes, but the statute, which is now law, does provide that flexibility. The 180 days is really a hard stop. Failure to meet the 180 days and act to prohibit all or a few or any of these classes results in a 5-year period where marijuana activities can go forward and take place and get licenses and operate within the municipality. You don't get the opportunity again to address the situation until 5 years has passes. Then there's another opening where you could decide that, well, we don't want this class, that class, or the other. But those entities that have in the interim been established are grandfathered. It's not that like 5 years out you can eliminate everything that's already happened. You have another opportunity to regulate at that time. A window opens after 5 years. If you fail to pass an ordinance, then under the statute, growing, cultivating, manufacturing, selling, reselling becomes permitted uses in all industrial zones in the municipality, and the selling of marijuana items to end consumers at a retail store becomes a conditional use in your commercial areas, subject to, the imposition of conditions. That sort of thing normally indicates that there has to be a certain distance between a marijuana use and other uses, as has traditionally been for gas stations. Always had conditional uses. They had to be half a mile from other certain uses. And the point being that if you want to establish a marijuana use and you can't meet the conditions, then it goes to the Board of Adjustment as a D use variance. That's if you don't pass an ordinance, those kinds of things can happen. So the final item to be taken into consideration with respect to this is that there are financial implications to this. Under the new law, there are what are called transfer taxes that the municipality can impose upon marijuana uses if you have them within the community. 2% on the receipts from the sale of a marijuana cultivator, 2% on the receipts from the sale by a marijuana manufacturer, 1% of receipts from the sale by a marijuana wholesaler, and 2% of receipts on the sale of marijuana by a marijuana retailer. So those are some of the things that you're going to want to have in mind as the principal features of this legislation. There's a lot in this legislation. It's voluminous legislation having to do with what an entity has to do in order to gain one of these licenses. But from the municipal standpoint, these are the principal considerations that you'll want to think about.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Falcon. Can you please guide the committee on how we are to proceed kind of in discussing this, or what's the process that we need to follow at this point?
Well, I think as in all things, in decision-making, you want to make an informed decision based upon the collection of the best information that you can get. I think you may want to engage some of the services of maybe your CFO or someone on the financial side who can talk about projections that might occur if certain events happen within the town. I think you need to look at what more specifically is involved in each class of use here as to whether you would want to consider having any of that done in the community. Now, I represent another municipality where just this week they've been approached by a cultivator who proposes to put a cultivation facility within a large warehouse. You have to have room to do that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. It's very secure, and it's going to be very nondescript as far as anybody who would take a look at the thing. What I'm saying is, as between these classes, you're going to want to understand the implications of each, and whether you want to perhaps think of permitting a class to go forward, or maybe you want nothing to do with this, but you'll have to start a process of the collection of information which will enable you from various disciplines and people who know what this is all about, marijuana marketing, to make an informed decision. The caution that I would give you is that with respect to the 180 days, if you decide to do an ordinance at the end of this process, you really got to allow a couple of months, because if it's a zoning ordinance, and that's often how this is done, you'll introduce it 1 month. You remember, zoning ordinances have to go to the planning board in between first and second, and then come back, so it's probably a 2-month process. That means you're really looking at, instead of 6 months, like a 4-month evaluation of what you might want to do in connection with this, so that you don't get backed up against the 180 days by failing to really think it through.
Could I just ask one question of Mr. Falcon? Mr. Falcon, does the township then have in a different scenario, if the township were to proceed with prohibition through ordinance, does the township then have the ability, even beyond the 180 days, to come back and say, oh, we would like this particular use?
I think if you opt out, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know why you couldn't, if you wanted to then amend the ordinance that you passed at the 180-day point, prohibiting all uses, and you have a change of heart, well, maybe we'll allow some of this to happen. I'd have to take another look at the fine print and make some inquiries. But that might be a possibility.
I'm just looking at that from a process standpoint, too,
That's a good
just
point.
in case you wanted to do that, so that you have the ability to go through a process without having the specter of a deadline in front of you.
Okay, so Mr. Falcon, you'll get back to us on that.
Yes, I will.
With that information. Okay, I'd like to open the committee up for any questions for Mr. Falcon, or to have any conversation around this topic at this point. Any suggestions on how you want to move this process forward within the next couple months, the next couple meetings? Any ideas?
This is all commercial, not somebody, when you talked about cultivating, growing it, that's all commercial growth, right?
Yes.
This is all commercial.
Yes, the commercial activity.
So the thing is, this cultivation, manufacturing, which is processing, wholesale, transporting, retail, and delivery, yes, it is commercial, but it is going not only to, it could go to individual as well, but yes, commercial. I've worked in marijuana industry for 2 years. We have applied for licenses in New York State that was vertically integrated. I traveled different countries and different states working on this marijuana and worked with Stanley Brothers, who started Charlotte's Web, which was first in CBD. In the beginning, it was all great, and then slowly I started seeing the back door and how the true industry was. That was medical marijuana. And came to, after 2 years, I saw the psychoactive drug and how it has kind of doomed the life. Again, it was all medical marijuana. For the patients, it was great, but most of the businesses I saw, it was under that patient, they were all recreational. Again, how they got to that, I don't know. But I've been to California, to Colorado, to Jamaica, to India also for this, and Canada. Different places I've been to. Again, this is my experience. Based on my experience, I would just ask a question. Again, there may be a different thought process all around the committee and all around the residents. We should listen to them as well. We are representing them. If at all we have to go with an ordinance of no, again, this is just my ask, my question, how do we go about it?
You simply adopt an ordinance. Most municipalities have adopted a zoning ordinance that makes it a prohibited use in all zones, in any one of these classes. To
So
do a
for that
total
process,
opt-out.
how do you start?
Well, an ordinance is drafted, I prepare an ordinance, you introduce it on first reading, it gets sent to the planning board for their analysis of consistency with the master plan, comes back here, has a hearing on second reading, and then you would take action one way or the other on the ordinance.
Thank you.
So I believe in November, we had 10,000 residents vote, and 7,000 were voted for this amendment. I think no matter how you feel about marijuana, recreational, a majority of our residents were for this amendment. And just because you ban it in Millburn, which you're giving up that 2% revenue, which is found money, and you're going to give it to a neighbor, the residents who want to purchase recreational marijuana will go a quarter of a mile away to Springfield or a quarter of a mile away to Maplewood. So no matter if you feel what it may do, and I'm not going to get into that with you or anybody, it's here to stay. And we had a couple years ago, we had a company come give us all a very educational talk on how the different levels work. It's a product that is going to be sold, and it's going to be sold by a surrounding neighbor or by us. And if you shut the window for 5 years, you don't know if you can reopen the window. If we don't shut the window and somebody wants to come in, they would go to the Board of Adjustment or the Planning Board. Or it's an acceptable use, like if a tattoo parlor wanted to come in, or any selling water bottles.
Under zoning, a conditional use is a permitted use so long as the conditions in your ordinance are met.
So-
And if an applicant cannot meet all of those conditions, then it goes over to the Board of Adjustment for a variance.
Not the Planning Board, the Board of Adjustment.
If it comes in and it meet all the conditions, it could be done at the planning board.
It would be done at the
If they
Planning Board.
can't, then it has to go over to the Board of Adjustment.
But it would have to go to a board. They can't just open up the store.
Well, like anything else, an enterprise coming in would have to
Right.
meet the requirements of,
So if the residents objected, there'd still be a place for them to go and object without putting this prohibition, a 5-year shut the window prohibition, correct?
well, I think that the objections, if a matter goes to the planning board, and it is essentially a permitted use, the planning board is obliged to pass applications that meet the requirements of the ordinance. That people show up and say, oh, I think this is a bad idea, we shouldn't have it. Well, it's a permitted use under your zoning. It is here where that threshold decision is going to have to be made. And, I'm sorry, I don't want to.
No, I'm just saying we can shut the window, or we could keep the window open, and it's a possibility that this business could come into our town versus giving it to our neighbor. Because this is a product that's going to be sold, And just because you don't like it, it doesn't mean that you're not going to go to Springfield, Maplewood, or Livingston, or Union to get it. So I think we have to be really open-minded. Things are changing. And, stop chasing potential businesses away and potential revenue for the town.
Well, for the record, again, I don't mean to interrupt what you're saying, but I'm all for SIT. I'm all for businesses. But if there is quarter-mile away, you can buy it from Springfield. I would say, Millburn guys, if you want it, go out to Millburn and buy it. It's
Well-
not stopping you. So, again, difference of opinion. Whatever Ms. Egler is saying, she has equal vote than I am. We'll hear the residents, and we'll make a decision based on that. But
I hadn't anticipated this, and I'm only throwing this out, sitting here seeing what's transpiring. There have been many situations over the years where a topic comes up and a subcommittee gets formed. You bring in people to sit around a table with that subcommittee to evaluate these various aspects, plus and minus, and they do some kind of an analysis which they give back to you, and then you make the final decision. If you, I'm always in favor of an informed decision, that a legal process involves the necessity for good decisions to be made on the basis of information that is absorbed by the lawmakers or the decision makers. It would have to be necessarily, as I pointed out, a pretty quick process, but maybe the way to do this is to pull some people together to really
Mr.
drill
Huff?
down on these.
Great, so I hear your idea. I think that, what I would like to do, I think that we have, started this discussion within the public. I think that we can the committee can think about that. I'm
Sure.
not ready to start, I don't think any of us right now are ready to make a decision at 10 o'clock at night tonight. We will continue this conversation on March 9th at our next meeting, and we will invite the residents to start, either contacting us through email or coming to speak to the matter. And we have a few weeks, a few meetings to discuss this, and we'll keep talking about how we're best gonna handle it. Okay. With that, is everyone on
I'm
the
good,
committee
thank
okay
you.
with that? Okay, great.
Sure.
I'm gonna call a 5-minute recess, just so we can all use the bathroom and take a stretch before we come back full attention for new business and public comment. Okay,
thank you.
5 minutes.
Please just keep in mind the mics are on, just so everybody knows.
More things going on. You just have to tell the people what you want, which option you want. Just tell everybody. But just yourself though, because she has pot in her store. She has CBD. She could sell it.
Lady, I'll get the
I was
license.
about to strangle you.
No, it's the microphone's on. Stop.
All right, I didn't say that, folks.
That's a big thing in school. It's good that it sounds like it's during a 2-week class.
Let's first find out what you're gonna do about the city.
So I'm sorry I didn't, I guess I think you need more support on the fact that you're doing things that would end up, but then we'll use the Main Street, because we kind of like go there. And then he said, yeah, but I'm taking it so long. It's
We've been through this for 50 years, man.
Well, I know.
Well, we don't have the budget to look at.
That's good.
It's whether you can, whether you're willing to set them all with the amount of people that you're going to be allowed to have.
I didn't mean that as additional.
Tammy, you have to follow whatever the restrictions are.
Yeah, listen, we have the 2%. If you look at our presentation, listen, that's what we have to.
All right.
And we have to. Hopefully you support it. No, I saw it. I watched it.
Okay, let's get going.
Busy talking.
20.5 million.
Okay. New business. Mr. Deputy Mayor Wasserman, would you like to talk about the Special Improvement District proposed budget?
Yes, Mayor, and again, I will mention that it will be coming up at our next meeting. The budget being discussed this evening was approved by the SID Board at its last meeting and sent to the Township Committee for approval. We will be meeting at our next meeting, March 9th, to formally take it up. I wanted to offer some brief comments and make sure that our neighbors are informed. First, the township will be funding this budget in its entirety for this year, 2021. The budget will now support 5 business districts in the township: Lower Millburn Avenue, the Downtown District, Upper Millburn Avenue, the Short Hills Train area, and Morris Avenue. Our last SID with the same approximate budget just serviced the Downtown District. This is a 5-fold increase in terms of physical size. In addition, the township will be paying half of Mr. Gleason's salary as of next year. The Explore Millburn Short Hills also has dedicated subcommittees. There's an events subcommittee which is meeting regularly, planning events for the 5 districts. These events will include live music and will make Millburn Short Hills the place to visit this summer as we come out of the pandemic. We will be presenting an outline of planned events at our next meeting. We have also asked our friend Allison Canfield, who's here tonight, to collaborate with us in terms of our lighting, signage, and historical markers. There's a special line item that we'll discuss at our next meeting that will address that. Lastly, we've been working very hard as a board, and I just wanted to mention that I've never worked with such a dedicated group of local residents, business owners, and commercial property owners who are focused on supporting small businesses in our township. The board has worked nonstop since our inception, and that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Does any of the committee members have any questions for Deputy Mayor Wasserman tonight about the process of the Special Improvement District proposed budget or anything? Any questions, comments?
Mr. Rossman, when I spoke to you the other night, you said that the farmer's market, the $5,000 was going to be taken away from the SID. Do you
Well,
want to explain that?
Yeah, I thought that for specifics, that we were gonna
Oh.
actually leave that for the next meeting. But that is one of the things that will be coming up. There's consideration to take the farmer's market away from the SID so that Mr. Gleason can focus all his energy on the businesses and not so much on the farmer's market, and to have a different subcommittee work with that.
So that $5,000 would not be part of the SID. And I thought the whole point was that the farmer's market, when Mrs. Lieberberg, it was very important for her to keep the farmer's market in town after the SID collapsed, and then last year as well. So I'm just wondering why that would not stay within the SID, and maybe Mrs. Lieberberg, who's on the SID board, would just continue with her efforts because she understands how that works.
Well, to give a shout out to our former mayor, she did a great job. I actually was helping a little bit with the farmer's market last year, and she did a great job with the farmer's market, and I think that she would still be open to helping with it. And I think that a lot of that some of the people, including myself, that were involved with it would stay involved with it. It would just be taken out of Mr. Gleason's responsibilities, so he could focus on the 5 districts that we're going to have a budget about.
But he would have you and Mrs. Lieberberg as part of the board members to help, and it wouldn't become a town hall responsibility.
Potentially it would. Potentially it would come under town hall's oversight.
And what if Mr. Gleason and Marla, whose name I can't, Itzkin, what if they want to do events at the farmer's market? Is that not part of bringing people into town and continuing the excitement of the farmer's market?
Well, listen, I've always supported this farmer's market. I think it's vital to, to your point. I think the farmer's market is vital to the success of the township. People come for it. The farmers are great. There's a lot of engagement, and I think it's something that we have to really that we don't want to let it down. We want to really build it up. Our neighboring town Summit has a tremendous farmers market. I think that we can, that our goal should be to have something like that where it provides real engagement for our residents.
Right. I still see it being part of the SID and not part of town hall, but.
Well, we can discuss that. This is
Sure.
the budget line discussion will definitely be at our next meeting. But, I just wanted to give an overview.
Well, we had spoken about, you had told me
I
about it, so I
called you.
thought you were bringing it up specifically tonight, yeah.
Yeah, well, I did speak to every member of the committee to go over the line items. But I think that if we have a formal meeting on the budget, I think that should happen at that time.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. Does any committee member have any other item of new business to address?
No.
Okay. When invited to speak, please come to the public comment. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, to the microphone, and clearly state your name, address, and speak loudly so that your comments may be understood by all and properly recorded. There was a properly noticed remote option for those who could not attend the meeting in person. If you called in and would like to comment, please press 6 now. If you are attending by computer or electronic device, please click raise hand button. All members of the public wishing to speak will be put into the queue to address the committee. Whenever an audience or committee member reads from a prepared statement, please email a copy to the Township Clerk's office at townclerk@millburntwp.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are limited to their comments to 1 3-minute session. You will be prompted when there's 30 seconds remaining. This is a business meeting, and please do not address professionals or staff directly, and please direct all comments to me. After comments are made, then committee members and our professionals, Mr. McDonald and Mr. Falcon, will be able to respond to comments. Each individual will be given 1 opportunity, and please be patient as we address each member of the public that wishes to speak. And I just ask you to remember that we are all neighbors, and we are all here because we love our town. Thank you. Please, Mr. Feld.
Again, my name is Jeffrey Feld. I feel for you guys. I think you need triage. For the amount of things that are on your plate that was just announced tonight, I think we need to prioritize what we're going to do. First, I think there needs to be a website blast, because at the beginning of the meeting, before many people came, I think you're changing the meeting on the vision plan from March 26th to March 2nd. Did I hear that correctly? And that's very important because a lot of people don't know, because March 2nd is next Tuesday. And our former mayor talked about, if you're going to have a vision plan, you need to have ownership from the public. And if the public doesn't know that the date changed, how are you going to have ownership? And that, to me, is just a neutral transparency comment. If you have a chance, you should read the governor's budget address today, because he has various themes. He talked about honesty, transparency, bait and switch, kicking the can down the road. 5 minutes ago, we just heard bait and switch. We heard that Mr. Gleason's salary is going to be paid in calendar year 2022. That was the first time, for the various meetings I've attended, that we're now hearing that additional taxpayers' monies are being used for a third additional year down the road. In my submissions, there was a case that came out last week. It's called Mac Cali. It talked about ultra-virus actions. There's serious questions as to the validity of the SID. Did you have a feasibility study? Did you have buy-in? Did you have an elected board? These are issues that goes to the substantive issues. Early this evening, we heard about the local finance board dismissed the case. I have not received a decision that they denied my motion. When they dismissed the case, it was they did not dismiss it on the merits. They declined to exercise jurisdiction and want the Superior Court to hear it. My motion is saying that they have exclusive jurisdiction and they cannot decline jurisdiction. Yesterday in the packet I sent to you is proposed regs from the local finance board where they specifically used the word original jurisdiction. That's a term of art. You're a layman. You need to get an opinion as to what original jurisdiction means. I talked about that, the blast. As to the budget presentation, it was a great budget presentation, but please put it on the agenda that people know that you're going to do it so they can attend. It was not listed as a presentation. One issue that we do have about the budget presentation is going to be the effect of massive tax appeals by the mall and the Hilton. That, I don't believe, was factored into your presentation. And that's something that we do have to be considered, that there's going to be a decline in revenues, that we're going to have a new expense to be paid out, how we're going to do that. As to the parking,
Mr. Feld, thank
I
you.
just have one comment I need to really make.
Okay.
You talked about the effective date being April 1st. If the ordinance is approved on March 23rd, unless this is based to be an emergency, which it's not going to be, an ordinance becomes effective usually 20 days upon publication. So probably talking about effective date, we're talking about mid-April. So I just want to make sure we all understand. I heard it. Sometimes I know we don't think it through, but that there is this process. We prove it, we have to publish it, and then it doesn't become effective. Won't be April 1st, might be really May 1st. I just want to throw that out.
Fair point.
Other people, I think we talk, also get a copy of Judge Koblitz's
Mr.
opinion, commentary in the New Jersey Law Journal this week.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Feld. and for showing up at these meetings every, twice a month with us. Thank you. Does anybody else want to make a public comment? We have people on the line. Okay.
Hello, this is Dave Cosgrove. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mr. Cosgrove.
Okay, very good. Thank you. 99 Oakview Terrace. One comment and then one question that you folks might be able to answer, or Mr. Falcone probably might be able to answer. So the comment is about Mr. Phillips gave a presentation about changing zoning ordinances. And I know that there's a very strong desire, is probably the best way to put it, to get rid of zoning ordinances downtown. But what I'm not hearing, and I didn't hear from Mr. Phillips either, is the concern of how it affects the residents who live nearby. He proposed, I think, a very, very short time frame when these ordinances that I guess he's going to draft for you would become available for the public to actually look at them. And it worries me because it's the same, it sounds like the same schedule that was used when the Silverman project was done, where, the ordinance or the settlement was presented halfway through a meeting and then it was passed at the next meeting. It didn't leave enough time for residents to really look at it, to get the word out to people that are going to be affected by it. So I'd ask for a longer schedule there. So that's the request there. And the second, Mr. Falcone gave a short presentation about this marijuana legislation. I have let, I think, all of you know that I'd urge you to vote against it. But I'm curious as to a comment that he made about the tax revenue. And the question is does that tax revenue end after a year or two? Just so we know that. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments and questions, Mr. Cosgrove.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to make a public comment? Right now, we do. We have some more people raise their hand. Or someone in the room.
I don't know what to say anymore. But I would like to say this tonight. I wish to remind all of you that you have been elected to serve us and not self-serving. Thank you for your commitment to the township. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Ms. Urso. Are we going to bring someone in? Dominique, you're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, I know. Dominique Urso, 514 Millburn Avenue. Again, I'd like to say I volunteer my time as a resident, just like all of you volunteer time to be on this board. And we only show if you want to take it as a sort of anger. I think that's how you view it, but you're not hearing all of our pleas of what you're doing and voting on. And tonight was a perfect example that people are telling you the things that you would potentially vote on would not help them. It goes in one ear and out the other, and you guys vote on it anyways. You take no input from the town. I don't know what's your side door agenda that you really don't care about business owners and residents, that you keep doing it without any of understanding our inputs. It's like, why is there even public comment then? You don't care to hear us. I mean, it's really a slap in the face. And you go on and on about, I heard comments tonight amongst the board of how, the SID would help address the lighting or this and that. You don't need to tax us and implement a SID for us to tell you what we need. Just do it. If you know the things that would help, do it without taxing us. People are already struggling, and you think adding that would help? If you know the problems, implement them, execute it without this excess taxation. It's really just so sad, and it's sick how you go about these meetings and you do not care to really hear people out. It's sad, me just listening to other people. And I know I'm wasting my time now, and you proceed and do what you do, and I hope it continues to work for you and whatever agenda you're really trying to self-serve yourself, not serve this town, as a lot of you try to say, oh, service tonight. I call that's not quite true. So thank you and have a great night.
Thank you for your comments and your participation, Ms. Urso. Any other comments? Public comments?
Nancy Stone, 10 Fielding Road, and I'm talking as a business owner as well. On the first issue in reference to the marijuana, personally, I'm against having the marijuana ordinance in Millburn. If people want to go elsewhere, let them go elsewhere. I personally would prefer Millburn not to be known for CBD shops. I have a 28-year-old nephew that is in his 4th rehab. That all started with marijuana, and it graduated from there. He struggles every day with this drug problem, and it's a personal for me. With that said, Diane is correct. My feelings do not matter, and my nephew clearly would not matter in Millburn. New Jersey voted in favor, so why are we fighting this? The train left the station. There was a majority of people in Millburn that voted for it, so we're the minority. So everybody, I happen to have a place in Colorado in Beaver Creek, and since they passed it there, it has been a disaster for the community and for the people that walk around stoned all the time. I'm not judging. If you use it for medical reasons and it helps you with your medical condition, God bless you if that's the way you need it to survive. I have no judgment on that. But there are other people that do abuse it, and it has personally affected my family. As far as the farmers market is concerned, Jackie wanted this farmers market. I fought her when I was treasurer on the SID. She kept wanting it. And Karen Cummins was in charge of it at the time. I don't know if she was planning. So are you planning to have the farmers market or you're not? So I personally go to Summit because I think the Millburn one is just not good. I patronize a lot of other things in Millburn. The farmers market is just not one of them. And I remember when, Tara, you had a booth, and Karen had this little side hustle thing with some of the merchants that they could pay out their membership. And I said, no, if you have a table, $750, and you have to pay. And specifically, you did not pay. And when you were asked to pay, you chose to opt out of the farmers market. There was another vendor as well, not going to mention the name, but you specifically opted out with Green Nectar Juicery to not participate in the market. Focus on dissolving the SID. We're in a pandemic. These retailers don't need it, and that's the bottom line. As far as it was done illegally, and Kit, you're going to be brought up on the ethics board for your billing charges, because I don't know how they signed off on your bill. And Jason, don't sign any checks for these people.
Jean Pasternak, 342 Hobart. I'd like to also make a comment about the marijuana. I am against it. I have a husband who does need it for medical purposes, and it helps him a great deal. But I know that he has ways to do this, and I think it's really not something that he would even agree is the right thing for this town. I'd like to also talk about free speech and my concern about cancel culture in our town. People that regularly attend this meeting have been deleted from various social media and Google group platforms because of postings that they've made related to issues facing the township committee. I think this is terrible. And I think anything you can do in your leadership positions to stop that from happening is really important to do. The second thing I wanted to talk about was we had a number of email exchanges, and I don't want to go into every detail, but I am going to summarize a couple things. First of all, I think the OPA requests are an issue. We have put forward, several of us, and have been non-responsive in many ways. I think if those specific records aren't available, we still understand that there's a question out there that needs to be answered. And I think to obfuscate or to find ways not to answer that is really awful, and it builds a lot of distrust. So I think that needs to be worked on, and part of that is Perhaps having independent counsel look at these requests if they relate directly to our township attorney. Second thing is, I wanted to talk about conflict of interest. I mean, I'm taking that personally because I face that as an elected official on the school board. I was a head of a special education group, and I was asked to resign my position doing that, and people were concerned about me having information that would be of significance to people in that group versus what I learned confidentially on the board. A written and legal opinion was issued in that situation that gave me confidence in the decision I ultimately made, which was to resign. And I think that that's something that not only is legally important, but it's also just from an ethical integrity standpoint important. The community, if they feel that somebody has an edge because of the business that they're in due to their official elected position, I think it really creates an atmosphere of distrust. And I know particularly, I'm not going to name names, but the individual that I have written about, I know that she has a high integrity, and I do wish that this matter does get settled. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pasternak.
Would you grant me 1 minute?
I will. Come, Ms. Urso.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
I want to ask Mr. Wasserman, because you sit on the SID board, I did send out an Oprah request, and I got a response back from Ryan, and I'm appreciative of that. However, I had a few questions that, I wanted to, and I don't think I was being out of line, but as a stakeholder, I asked a question about, I know that initially it was going to like a generic Explorer account. And then finally I got a response back when he was on board. One of my questions was the candidates. I wanted to know if there was other candidates and possibility for this position. And I got a response back that my question was like overly broad.
For which position?
For the executive director. So, I mean, how is that overly broad? I mean, was there just one candidate that applied for this position, executive director? I asked who vetted, who did the interviews and things like that. And I kept getting back, it's like overly broad. But not for nothing, but as a taxpayer, and if I'm gonna have to pay the salary in full hilt amongst my other peers as a commercial property owner, I mean, I think that we should be privy of some of this information. So I was a little like, so to me, it's made it sound like there's only one applicant that actually applied for this executive director. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I did ask the question, and it came back overly broad. So I don't know how I could restructure that question to say, how many candidates applied for the executive director position? Is that overly broad? Yeah. I mean, was there one application, 5 applications, 10? I mean, do you know?
Ms. Urso, we hear you. So,
Okay, so-
just direct it to me right
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
and you will have.
So I
we
don't know
will
how,
answer.
should I direct the questions, my questions to you, and perhaps that, you could answer these questions? Because obviously Mr. Gleason on his defense couldn't, but I don't know how that was overly broad unless he was instructed by the, and actually without even having an attorney that's representing the board, or is the board of trustees going to the chairman and the treasurer? I mean, they're 2 attorneys, but if there's not an actual attorney on that board, who are they getting their answers from? So that's a little sketchy too. I mean, I'm a little concerned. And then also, if there is in fact no validity of the SID, I'm concerned about the executive director coming back and with the possibility of litigation against me as a stakeholder amongst my colleagues. I've mentioned that at the last TC meeting. So I'm really concerned about those 2 matters. Thank you for your time and the courtesy.
Thank you, Ms. Urso. Okay, so I'm going to close public comment. There's no one else new on the phone. I'm going to close public comment, and then I'm going to open up to the committee to respond to any of the public comments. I'll start with Mr. McDonald. Do you have anything that you would like to respond to public comment?
Yes, in regard to the comment that was made about Mr. Gleason or the executive director's salary, I just wanted to be clear for the committee and for the public that the provision of 50% of that individual's salary being paid by the township was in the ordinance from the beginning. Okay, I just want that to be clear. That is not so that provision of 50% being paid by the township was in the ordinance from the beginning. whether it's being confused that 2022 is somehow allocated this year for, so I'm just saying, so for this year, the municipality, the SID budget is coming from the municipality's budget. Next year in 2022, when it is done through a SID, through an assessment to the property owners, 50% of that salary will then come from the municipality's budget. I just want that to be clear. I can only speak a little bit to Ms. Urso's question about some of those things she's putting in Oprah. And I would just for everybody's purposes that Oprah is the Open Public Records Act, and it's not meant for questions. It's meant to put forth a request for specific records from whatever entity you are putting those requests in. That's the only thing I can offer as to maybe why some of those things weren't answered, but I just thought that might be helpful.
Okay, hold on, please. We're doing great here tonight. Thank you. Okay. So, Mr. Falcon, would you like to respond to any of the public comments tonight?
I think the continuing discussion about the conflict
please
of
use your
interest
microphone.
on the,
Thank
Ms. Miggins, I'm sure that's directed at you on the planning board. I spoke to that last time, but I don't need to reiterate what my view is on that. They're also, I don't understand why there's a continuing discussion concerning the U.S. Attorney's investigation. That matter was closed out a long time ago. There were bills, I think, sent by a special counsel in 2020 when he made inquiries to the U.S. Attorney's Office about that investigation to confirm that it had been concluded. But there's been nothing. That whole matter was the subject of extensive discussion and settlement here at this township committee. A settlement agreement was entered into, and the arrangements under that settlement agreement continue to be administered by our administrator. So it's all on the record of those meetings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do any of my committee members have anything that they would like Mr. Committeeman Vinyayak?
Yes. So there was a question asked this earlier today, presentation for budget. My presentation wasn't for budget. Budget presentation will happen. I think it's supposed to happen in March. This was more of what I'm working on, my report that I was showing. It was more of an information basis, and that is a recommendation as in Finance Committee. I have actually recommended or suggested along with Mr. Wasserman to all the committee here. So you will get the budget presentation, and that will get whatever official route or process needs to be followed that happens. Then there was another question asked, how can we do this for budget of mall, this, that? We have done our due diligence with the best of our knowledge. I don't know if you really want us to raise money or raise budget or raise taxes because we are seeing mall going down. I don't see that right now. And that is what I did the work with my coworkers and with the team that I was working with. So I cautious you before you even say this whole thing is being also seen by all the other members, and we don't want that to be used for something else. There was a third question on marijuana taxes, that it was going to go down to 0 or 1%. As much as I'm against marijuana, that thing was there for medical marijuana. Recreational marijuana, maybe the taxes may stay. I'm not sure about that. But medical marijuana, yes, there was whatever taxes was there. When we kept talking about we'll collect the tax revenue, in a couple of years it was going to go down to 0. And so I don't know about the rec marijuana. The question was asked, so I'm just giving you my 2 cents on that. Thank you.
Any other?
I'll make a response, although I will point out that I feel a little bit limited because we are in a lawsuit with, the SID is in a lawsuit, and I feel a little bit limited in terms of responding to a lot of your questions. But I will assure you that the board did an extensive search for an executive director. Many people were interviewed, and Mr. Gleason's, resume, background, His references were outstanding, and he was the best. He was certainly the best candidate for the job, and I think that from the job he's doing, he comes with a lot of energy, and I really believe he's going to help the businesses in the township. And I think next meeting, there were questions, about lighting and about signage. Which we'll discuss at the next meeting. There is money set aside for all the districts for lighting and signage, and I appreciate that Allison is here, that she's agreed to help us with some of the historical signage. So there is a plan in place that Mr. Gleason is going to execute, and I have every confidence that he's going to do a great job for this township.
Thank you. Anyone else?
A couple of closing comments. You answered how many applicants were for the SID. I don't think that was a secret. It was just easy to answer that. Not pro or anti-SID. Wait, I scribbled here. I guess my concern is going to be discussed at the next meeting with this budget. As you said, it's now the same exact budget for a five-fold area. In 2022, the township's taxpayers will pay half of Mr. Gleason's salary. Right. So I guess my concern that we will all be watching is that budget does not go up, double, triple, whatever, to do the same amount of work for a larger footprint. That's just really important, because that now after that the merchants and the property owners will be paying that. As far as the marijuana, I'm not saying I am for or against. I do not smoke marijuana, but when 3,000 vote no to 7,000 vote yes for this community, we are here to do the will of the public who elected us. So they got elected with Ms. Miggins and Mr. Vinyayak at the same time that they all voted that they are pro-legalization of marijuana. They weren't asked if they wanted it in this town or not, but clearly you want to keep our budget down. You want to be pro-business by having the SID, and it's again about being open-minded and changing some of our old-fashioned ways, if I could say that. So if we're here to do the will of the public, they voted 7,000 yes to legalize recreational marijuana. And if that brings in revenue, that sure is a plus. And you should probably go. I have not been to a marijuana store. I don't have a medical license, but if you go, from what I hear from my friends, I have friends whose kids work in the industry, it is so incredibly secure. It is so safe. In fact, some places you don't even know it's a marijuana location, if it's a growery, a wholesaler, or whatever. So I think before, you really have to think really carefully when we get in this discussion about closing a 5-year window and giving this to a neighbor. Because we've given a lot of restaurants to neighbors, we've given retail establishments to our neighbors, and we want Millburn to be where people are coming, which again, I will say, by closing our one thoroughfare for now 8 months on weekends, to have people party in one small block. And the first time we did that was for Oktoberfest. And it's a very fun atmosphere, but again, let's look at the entire town and be open-minded. And closing Main Street for 8 months of weekends, I just don't think is the right answer. And with that, I will wish everyone a pleasant evening.
I want to answer that back,
Okay,
please.
yeah, we're not
Just
ending.
give me 1 minute.
Yes, I'm not ending. I still
Yeah.
have some things to say
Right.
too. Go, Mr.
Right.
Committeeman Vinyaka.
No, so when you talk about marijuana, I said 2 years. I've lived and breathed and stayed in this industry. So I'm not talking out of nowhere. I'm talking out of experience. And when you say marijuana, think open-minded, my answer is no.
So,
I'm not going to vote for it.
okay, so I understand that, and I obviously am, but just think your children's friends or
Yes.
whoever smokes marijuana
No.
will still go to Springfield and Maplewood to get
That's
it.
right.
And you'll give
Again,
them,
it's a no.
Okay,
Thank you.
gotcha.
all right, we will,
I do have one question about that.
okay.
Did the township committee they voted against the medical marijuana for the town, is that correct?
It did,
We
yes.
did,
Okay, I just want to be clear about that. Okay.
okay.
That was before, Ms. Miggins, before there was the referendum that was voted by the township.
Okay, you guys,
And
we are gonna continue.
No, I'm just, yeah,
I
I'm,
know.
And Diane, I can appreciate that, and yes, I saw the way the vote count went, but that doesn't necessarily mean, people might say they want something legal, but doesn't mean that they want it in their town.
Okay, we will continue this conversation.
I'd like to address Mr. Feld that an email blast went out today on the change of the vision plan date. So that was, I'm sorry that you did not
It went out
receive it. It
late.
went out to everybody, and it's on the website. But I will let everyone once again know that due to an oversight in the Purim holiday, we rescheduled the second public workshop, virtual public workshop, to Tuesday, March 2nd from 7 to 9, and I hope you all will join us on Zoom. To Mr. Cosgrove's point, we will make sure that everyone is aware of all the ordinance changes, and we are not rushing anything through. Everyone will have plenty of time to discuss it. Mr. Falcon, do you know if at the end of the 1 or 2 years, tax revenue of the marijuana will end as it was proposed during the medical marijuana? Do you have that information?
I think it's continuing revenue, but I'll confirm it.
Great, and you'll also confirm whether or not we can opt in after we've opted out on any of the categories. Thank you. I would just also like to say that, we all show up to these meetings, we all give our time, and none of it is wasted. And while not everybody might agree with our vote or agree with, the choices that we are making, we do hear you, and please be patient with us, and we are working to better our entire community. So with that, I'd like to say, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All right, good night, Millburn Township.
Thank you.
Motion second, finished.
I am so thankful that you gave us a break.
I know. Oh, I took one because.
Oh, my God.
I feel so bad that I stopped feeling